Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Global Apocalypse, Awakening the Soul-Swallowing Talent at the Beginning. Chapter 26. But he said, not a single Yuan Jing is missing, otherwise I will kill you immediately. What should I do, Hong? Can you get away? Zhao Jin's anxiety was almost overflowing from the words. He thought about Lu Li being strong, but he never thought that Lu Li would be so strong. Luo Hong brought so many experts with him and made complete preparations to seize the opportunity, but he was still controlled by the opponent in the end. Looking at the message that popped up on the panel, Luo Hong's heart sank to the bottom. We can't escape. Everyone is dead. Lu Li only left me alive. Zhao Jin immediately posted another message. I see that your coordinate point is still displayed in Yangcheng number 1 middle school. Try to delay as long as possible, and I will bring someone to rescue you. Before Luo Hong could reply, Lu Li, who was not far away, said calmly. Delete and block Zhao Jin, otherwise, you will die. The other end. Zhao Jin, who was anxious and angry, wanted to send a message to Luo Hong, but found that the other party's chat box had been locked. Even the real-time displayed location disappeared and became completely unknown. What? Zhao Jin didn't react for a while. Soon, Lu Li's reply popped up in the chat box. Warm reminder, if you can't see the Yuan Jing I want before midnight, Luo Hong will die. Resisting the urge to swear, Zhao Jin quickly typed. I really don't have that much inventory on hand, at most 32nd order elemental crystals. Send Luo Hong over first, and then I'll give you the Yuan Jing. Pay money with one hand and pay people with the other. Lu Li, what the hell are you talking about? Zhao Jin sent a bunch of messages, but in the end he only got a cold countdown from Lu Li. There are still 2 minutes and 39 seconds until 0 o'clock. What if I give you the Yuan Jing and you don't hand it over? You have no choice. Zhao Jin felt like he was going crazy. He has never been manipulated like this before. Seeing Zhao Jin going crazy, the deputy on the side couldn't help but muttered in a low voice. Brother Jin, we can't let that guy Lu Li lead us by the nose. If we give him all the Yuanjing, then the subsequent upgrades. Before he finished speaking, the deputy was slapped hard on the face. If you don't give it to him, what will happen if Luo Hong dies? The deputy covered his swollen cheek and advised inarticulately. Brother Jin, as the saying goes, women are like clothes. If there is no sister-in-law, the next one will be better. You must put the overall situation first. Zhao Jin kicked the deputy in the face. Feeling annoyed, he grabbed the deputy's collar and slapped him twice. Do you know what Luo Hong's ability is? It's corpse condensation. If she dies, the clan master will exclude my lineage from the Zhao family. Hurry and prepare the Yuan Jing. I want to change Luo Hong back. Sitting in the car, Luo Hong looked at the scenery outside the window and quickly retreated. After turning off the positioning, Lu Li took her for a ride in the city. Obviously, this move was to prevent Zhao Jin from locking their position. The high school student named Lu Li in front of him was terrifyingly cautious. Time passed minute by minute while waiting, and finally at a moment close to 0, Zhao Jin's transaction request popped up on Lu Li's panel. Player Zhao Jin requested a trade. Transaction content. 86 second order elemental crystals and 28 third order elemental crystals. Payment required. None. Lu Li raised his lips and agreed to the deal. Orange and red Yuanjing emerged out of thin air and piled up into 2 hills on the seat. Luo Hong looked at the scene in front of him and breathed a sigh of relief. Now that the deal is done, you should let me go, right? Lu Li still looked calm. Don't worry, I'll let you go now. Can you ensure that you return to the Zhao family safely? Luo Hong was startled and found that this was indeed the case. Although her corpse crystal is of the jade grade, it has no combat power. Without protection, any monster could kill her. But how did Lu Li know this? Luo Hong's heart suddenly sounded alarm bells. Some details that she had previously ignored resurfaced, forming a terrifying question. How could Lu Li know so much about himself and the Zhao family's situation? As if he could hear Luo Hong's thoughts, Lu Li smiled faintly and continued. Don't you want to know my natural abilities? Now that the transaction is successful, I will tell you. As soon as he finished speaking, black mist rose from the passenger seat next to Lu Li and condensed into a figure. He looks very young, about the same age as Lu Li. However, the expression between his brows was not as cold as Lu Li's, but instead gave people a sad feeling that he would be in trouble at any time. Hello beauty, my name is Xing Anlin. The shabby-looking figure stretched out his hand and shook hands with the confused Luo Hong. Without waiting for her to say anything, Xing Anlin thought to himself. Your men attacked the Humvee earlier and actually killed the target, twice. It's just that the target is not Boss Lu Li, but me. Is it you? Luo Hong's eyes widened, but the news I got clearly showed that Lu Li did not leave after entering the car. Did they lie to me? Xing Anlin explained. Brother Dao, they didn't lie to you. The reason why the civet cat can be exchanged for the prince is because of the special characteristics of the Soul Guard. After saying this, Xing Anlin's face began to distort and turned into Lu Li's appearance. On the contrary, the driver became Xing Anlin. I can exchange places with the Soul Guard. As Lu Li said this, he grabbed the Yuan Jing beside him and clicked on the data panel. The global trading market has been launched, and he must seize the time to trade all the Yuan Jing to Xu Xiao. After Xu Xiao received the Yuan Jing, he was very worried about Lu Li's safety. After all, she heard the sound when the Humvee was bombed. It wasn't until Lu Li repeatedly emphasized that he was safe several times that Xu Xiao felt relieved. I will trade you a batch of high-level elemental crystals, and you can help me replace these with first-level elemental crystals. Lu Li clicked on the friend transaction and traded all the Yuan Jing sent by Zhao Jin to Xu Xiao. Luo Hong watched the Yuan crystals that should have belonged to the Zhao family disappear into the air, and asked with a distressed expression. How do you know the inventory quantity of Zhaojia Yuanjing? Oh, because of him. Lu Li raised his chin at Xing Anlin, who chuckled and dissipated into black mist. When the vehicle was about to lose control, another pair of big hands gathered out of thin air and firmly grasped the steering wheel. A bald figure quickly gathered and took Xing Anlin's driver's seat. After Luo Hong saw the other party's appearance clearly, it was no longer possible to suppress the fear in his heart. She screamed, Chen Hao, ah, sister-in-law, it's me. Chen Hao touched his bald head embarrassedly. He looked simple and honest, but there was no trace of ferocity. How could you? Before Luo Hong could finish the question, Chen Hao explained. Because I died, and now I am the Soul Guard of Boss Lu Li. Boss was kind and didn't erase my consciousness, so in order to repay him, I told Boss Lu Li all the information I know. Luo Hong opened her mouth slightly and murmured like a fool. No wonder he knows the specific number of Yuanjing in stock, and also knows that my talent has no combat effectiveness. Immediately, she seemed to have thought of something again, and asked Chen Hao. I never thought you would betray the Zhao family. Have you forgotten who killed your nephew? Are you worthy of the Zhao family's cultivation of you over the years? Chen Hao raised his eyebrows without any guilt on his face. Of course I know. Tian Yuhao asked for it. With his perverse character, if Boss Lu Li doesn't kill him, he will die in the hands of others in the future. As for the Zhao family. Having said this, Chen Hao paused. I risked my life for the Zhao family. Doesn't this count as repayment? Luo Hong was speechless. After being silent for a while, she spoke again. I really didn't expect that the Zhao family would provoke such a powerful person. Lu Li, your talent really has potential. Are you interested in joining the Zhao family? When Lu Li heard this, he couldn't help but look back at Luo Hong. He didn't expect that this woman would extend an olive branch to him. She really deserves to be called Zhao Jin's wife. Luo Hongjian and Lu Li did not respond, and continued to make conditions. As long as you are willing to join the Zhao family, I guarantee that everything that happened before can be forgotten, and the Zhao family will also devote most of its resources to you to help you grow. Lu Li turned his head back and suddenly laughed. His laughter grew louder and louder, as if filled with overwhelming murderous intent. Let bygones be bygones, what a good thing to let bygones be bygones. Luo Hong, read my name again and see what my last name is. Global trading market. More and more players are discovering this new feature, and various messages are flooding the world chat channel. Wow, the global trading market is online. Thanks to me not sleeping, this wave is a victory for those who stayed up late. How to use this newly launched platform? Why is there no explanation? Are any ladies lonely? Are there any ladies out there who are dating? Add me as a friend and I will help you fill a cup and fly with you in the apocalyptic game. Are you crazy about women upstairs? This is a global trading platform, not your exclusive dating hotline. By the way, why haven't there been any newcomers on the level list in the past 2 days? Is the killing chest no longer popular? Hey, the one above who said the killing chest, did you really kill someone? Wow, the big guy on the list should punish him. Manual at Boss Cheesyu, who ranks first in the level list, are you still missing teammates? I'm asking the same question, brother Cheesyu, take me with you, I'm easy to push down with my soft voice and soft body. On the outskirts of Yangcheng, in a certain unfinished building, Cheesyu looked at the messages that kept popping up in the chat channel. Instead of being happy, he felt like a light on his back. Although he is now number 1 on the level list, in the end he is only a level 3 player. Just half an hour ago, he saw 3 level 4 players appear in front of him, and within a few seconds, they disappeared from the rankings. This moment made Cheesyu panic. 3 level 4 players were instantly killed. What does this mean? This means that this level ranking list is completely useless. The real bosses suppress their levels and hide outside the level list like turtles lurking in the quagmire. Only a young man like him could stupidly rise to the top and become a bright target. Fortunately, the player positions on the level list were not updated in real time, so Cheesyu breathed a sigh of relief. Since it is said to be a trading market, there must be trading information. Let's see if we can exchange for something good and increase our strength. Skipping the useless information, Cheesyu finally found a transaction message. Yuanjing replacement. The first order elemental crystal replaces the second order and third order elemental crystals, with a replacement ratio of 35, 1 in 150, 1. Tisk, someone actually wants to replace the high-level elemental crystal with a low-level elemental crystal. Do you really think that the players are all fools? Cheesyu clicked his tongue and continued to scroll down. Yuanjing replacement. The first order elemental crystal replaces the second order and third order elemental crystals, with a replacement ratio of 40, 1 in 170, 1. Yuanjing replacement. The first order elemental crystal replaces the second order and third order elemental crystal, and the replacement ratio is 45, 1 in 180, 1. Yuanjing replacement. The first order elemental crystal replaces the second order and third order elemental crystal, with a replacement ratio of 50, 1 in 190, 1. There are 3 in a row, all of which are similar replacement requests, and the proportion is getting higher and higher. Other players chatting in the channel also discovered this and spoke one after another. Exchanging low-level elemental crystals for high-level elemental crystals. What a good calculation. Who else doesn't know that you can only absorb 10 yuan crystals in 7 days? The person who sent this message is just treating others like fools. However, his replacement ratio is really high. Putting aside the absorption limit, looking at the experience value alone, it's really quite conscientious. Ha ha ha, conscience. Exchange your conscience with him. When the time comes and he is firmly on the ranking list, you can slowly absorb the first order elemental crystal. The higher the player level, the more experience points will be needed later, and the first order elemental crystal will definitely not be able to meet the requirements. But there are so many, I'm a little excited. Be excited. When the time comes, I will replace you with a bunch of first order elemental crystals. You won't be able to absorb them all until you die, ha ha ha. Cheesyu also laughed along with the players in the channel. But unlike others, the attentive Cheesyu paid attention to the player who posted the transaction news. They are all players named Xiao. If the duplication of names was not intentional, then the player named Xiao must be eager to level up. Cheesyu exited the chat channel and checked the level lists one by one. It didn't take long for his eyes to fall on a certain name. Xu Xiao, level 3, located in Yangcheng number 1 middle school. Cheesyu rubbed the orange crystal in his hand. It was his only third order elemental crystal, and he planned to absorb it once the 7 days were over. But now, he had another idea. As the saying goes, people are afraid of being famous, and pigs are afraid of being strong. At present, it seems that the position at the top of the ranking list attracts the most attention, which is harmful but not beneficial. In this case, why not give it up to others? Thinking of this, Cheesyu clicked on the message with the highest replacement ratio and sent a transaction request. I have one third order elemental crystal, and I want to exchange it with you for 191st order elemental crystals. I thought that the person with the pseudonym, Xiao, would immediately agree to the transaction request. But what surprised Chiziyu was that instead of agreeing, the other party directly refused. Holy shit, what are you doing? I offer you a good offer but you still refuse. Didn't you accidentally click on the wrong one? With a rigorous attitude, Chiziyu sent it again. Still rejected. Only this time, it also comes with a friend request. Player Xu Xiao, please add you as a friend. Agree or not? Weather. Fishing. Don't catch me until I'm hooked. Chiziyu clicked yes and successfully added Xu Xiao as a friend. In the friend chat box, Xu Xiao sent a message. I'm sorry, I don't have a first order elemental crystal on hand at the moment, but if you have a first order elemental crystal, I can trade it with you for a high level elemental crystal. Chiziyu had a question mark on his head. He read the message from Xu Xiao carefully and repeatedly several times, and then confirmed that the other party indeed wanted to exchange a high level one for a low level one. What are you doing? Is this Xu Xiao just a pain in the ass with nothing to do? How about playing monkey on the global trading market in the middle of the night? Ignoring Xu Xiao's inquiry, Chiziyu looked at the world chat channel again. Several more news of elemental crystal replacements have appeared, all of which are from one level to a higher level, and the ratio is higher than what Xu Xiao posted. The players who sent the messages had different signatures, but they all had the word, Zhao, appended to their names. Hey, a companion appears. Chiziyu watched with interest as the replacement ratio continued to rise. Perhaps because he had just been played, he even looked forward to Xu Xiao being defeated. Although he still can't figure out whether Xu Xiao wants a first-order Yuan Jing or a high-order Yuan Jing. Soon, the replacement ratio of the trading platform stabilized. The ratio of first-order elemental crystals replacing second-order elemental crystals is 60:1. The ratio of replacing third-order elemental crystals reached an astonishing 250:1. Because the ratio was so attractive, Chiziyu couldn't help but trade the only third-order elemental crystal in exchange for 251st-order elemental crystals. Just at this moment, Xu Xiao sent another message. Hello, I'm collecting first-order Yuan Jing here. Are you interested? Chiziyu looked sarcastic, casually edited a replacement ratio, and sent the transaction request to Xu Xiao. Player Chiziyu requested a trade. Transaction content. 181st order elemental crystals. Need to pay. 1/3 order elemental crystal. This ratio was first released by Xu Xiao, and is far from the current 250:1. Chiziyu knew that no one with any brain would agree to this exchange ratio. He just wanted to use this to mock Xu Xiao. But what he didn't expect was that the words transaction failure or friend blocked did not pop up on the panel. Instead, an unexpected transaction success occurred. No, is this girl out of her mind? Chiziyu squeezed the orange crystal in his hand and looked at the pile of extra first-order crystals on the ground. After buying and selling, he didn't lose anything, but he also made 71st-order elemental crystals. Is Xu Xiao doing this for charity? Chiziyu frowned, feeling that something was not quite right. In order to verify his conjecture, he opened the world chat channel again and selected a transaction request to acquire high-level Yuan Jing. 250 Yuan crystals were obtained again. Including the previous 70, Chiziyu now has a total of 330 Yuan crystals in his hand. Following the same pattern, he edited a transaction request and sent it to Xu Xiao. Player Chiziyu requested a trade. Transaction content. 321st order crystals. Need to pay. 8 second order elemental crystals. Within a second, the transaction was successful. Chiziyu collected the second order elemental crystals at a high ratio and received more first order elemental crystals, and then sent a transaction request to Xu Xiao at a low ratio. Repeating this process, the total number of Yuan crystals in Chiziyu's hands is increasing. Worries were also thrown out the window. The corners of Chiziyu's mouth finally raised uncontrollably. Ha 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 ha, you met a stupid girl. Let's see if I don't drain your fortune. Chiziyu sat down cross-legged and edited a message in the world chat channel. Yuanjing replacement. The first order elemental crystal replaces the second order and third order elemental crystals, with a replacement ratio of 65:1 and 260:1. He wants to increase the replacement ratio of first-order elemental crystals as much as possible. At the same time, the Zhao family. Sorry, Brother Jin, several people have just appeared to collect high-level elemental crystals, and the proportion that has just stabilized has begun to rise again. Among them is Qi Ziyu, who is number 1 on the level list. He has been promoted the most. Zhao Jin's face was ashen, but he still maintained his composure. It's just some individual people. I can't collect a few yuan. Continue to buy at the original ratio. Not long after he finished speaking, someone else shouted in the conference room. No, Brother Jin, other families have also started to raise their prices, especially the Lin family, who directly offered 300 first-order yuan crystals for 1/3 order yuan crystal. If this continues, we won't be able to receive a single high-level elemental crystal. Brother Jin, do you want to raise the price? Zhao Jin's face twitched and his brows almost twisted into knots. If only individual players compete with him for high-level elemental crystals, then it doesn't matter. After all, the Zhao family is rich in capital and has an unusually large number of first-order elemental crystals. Individual players can't eat many high-level elemental crystals. You can get rid of them even if you try hard. But other families are different. Like the Zhao family, they both have strong capital and a high demand for high-level yuan jing. Once they seize the opportunity, the Zhao family will really not be able to receive high-level yuan jing. Gritting his teeth, Zhao Jin said coldly. Increase the ratio. We must crush other families. Don't forget we have Luo Hong. If it doesn't work, you can issue an IOU. As long as you open your head now, the snowball behind will get bigger and bigger. The outskirts of Yangcheng. Looking at the tall buildings gradually disappearing around him, Luo Hong began to panic. Since that question, Lu Li didn't say a word and was busy working on the data panel the whole time. What on earth is Lu Li doing? Did he have no intention of letting himself go at all? The fear in Luo Hong's heart continued to ferment. In order to look calm, she could only keep repeating the words, Lu Li dare not provoke the Zhao family, in her mind. But it was repeated too much, and even Luo Hong himself became suspicious. Does Lu Li really not dare to provoke the Zhao family? His surname is Lu. If he is really the orphan of that family. No, it definitely can't be such a coincidence. Even if Lu Li is really the orphan of that family, he has no way of knowing the truth behind it. The Zhao family was very clean at that time. All relationships have been taken care of and there will be no accidents. Just as Luo Hong was comforting herself in this way, the high-speed vehicle suddenly came to a sudden stop. Under the influence of inertia, her entire face was slapped against the back of the front seat. The sore feeling made Luo Hong burst into tears, and she subconsciously wanted to scream. However, when Luo Hong saw clearly what was outside the car window, she immediately swallowed back the dirty words that came to her lips. Her body began to tremble slightly. The parking area is a deserted villa. The grand architectural style and spacious entrance hall reflect the former splendor. The courtyards overgrown with grass and the environment full of insects tell the story of the current dilapidation. Luo Hong is familiar with this place, very familiar with it. But she still had to pretend to be surprised and asked Lu Li puzzledly. Where is this? What did you bring me here for? Lu Li didn't answer, opened the car door and silently walked towards the villa. Chen Hao got out of the car from the other side and pulled Luo Hong out of the car. Luo Hong kept struggling, trying to break free. But how can her strength compete with Chen Hao? Not long after, Luo Hong was dragged into the villa. Because it had been abandoned for a long time, the villa was in a mess. There was thick dust and dense cobwebs everywhere. Lu Li found a broom and a dustpan and started cleaning the living room. The dust was swept away bit by bit, revealing the color of the floor below. Luo Hong looked at everything in front of him, and his whole body trembled even more. If she could still deceive herself before, she forcefully told herself that Lu Li was not the orphan. It's completely impossible now, because the location that Lu Li cleaned up was exactly where the couple was tortured. Even after so many years, traces of that time still remain on the floor. The color of the wooden board is black and red, which is the result of being soaked with blood. There are pits on it, the marks left by steel nails that penetrated the flesh. As for those scratches, they were scratched out unconsciously by people under extremely painful conditions with their fingernails. Lu Li finished cleaning, put the broom and dustpan away, and looked at Luo Hong. Kneel down and repent. Before Luo Hong could speak, Chen Hao kicked the woman's knees violently, causing her to kneel heavily on the ground. Lu Li sat cross-legged opposite Luo Hong. He opened the data panel with one hand and took out a palm-sized bottle of solvent from his pocket with the other hand. Ignoring Luo Hong again, Lu Li sent a message to Xu Xiao. "How is the collection of Yuanjing going?" Xu Xiao quickly responded. "That's almost it. I still have 12 second-order elemental crystals and 3 third-order elemental crystals on hand. They can be replaced in a while." "Okay, send me the first-order elemental crystal first." Xu Xiao did as he was told. A transaction request quickly popped up on Lu Li's data panel. Player Xu Xiao requested a trade. Transaction content: 98,978 first-order elemental crystals. Payment required: none. The moment Lu Li agreed to the request, a hailstorm seemed to fall in the silent villa. Nearly 100,000 first-order elemental crystals were piled into a small mountain on the floor, which was extremely spectacular. Luo Hong stared at everything in front of him in stunned silence. His lips twitched and he was about to ask something when he was kicked hard by Chen Hao in the back. The force was so strong that Luo Hong almost couldn't breathe. "The boss asked you to repent, can you be sincere?" I don't know anything. Where is this place? What do you want me to confess to? Obviously Zhao Jin has given you the Yuanjing to satisfy your request, why are you still refusing to let me go?" Luo Hong was writhing in pain on the ground, like a leech trapped in grains of salt. Although she didn't know where Lu Li learned the truth. But before the truth is revealed, she still has to insist that she has nothing to do with everything that happened here. Otherwise, even if she, Luo Hong, had 10 lives, she wouldn't be enough to kill Lu Li. Hearing Luo Hong's groan, Lu Li raised his head from behind the Yuanjing hill with an indifferent expression. "If you admit the sin you committed now and repent properly, I can let you go immediately." "What sin? I have no idea what you are talking about. What happened here? I really don't know anything." Luo Hong knelt on the ground, looking pitiful. Even hard-hearted people can't help but feel a little sympathy when they see it. But Lu Li remained unmoved. Because he clearly remembers the grudge from his previous life. He knew that it was the woman in front of him who kept crying for injustice, who had personally driven steel nails as thick as a thumb into his mother's body one after another. "Don't howl. Repent." Chen Hao seemed to sense Lu Li's gloomy mood and kicked Luo Hong hard in the mouth. After a scream, there were several bloody teeth on the floor. Lu Li turned a blind eye and raised his hand to call out the soul guard Xing Anlin. "Help me put these crystals into the solvent, I'm a little busy." "No problem, Boss Lu Li." Xing Anlin strangely saluted. But soon, he realized that something was wrong with the atmosphere at the scene, and immediately put down his hands in embarrassment and started working quickly. With Xing Anlin as a helper, the efficiency of dissolving Yuanjing doubled. Within half an hour, all the Yuan crystals were put into the solvent. At this moment, Xu Xiao sent another batch of Yuanjing. There are more than 30,000 pieces. Lu Li was a little surprised. His original psychological expectation was actually 100,000 first-order elemental crystals. But Xu Xiao obviously overfulfilled this task, and exceeded it by a lot. Lu Li asked curiously. "A total of 130,000 pieces were obtained in exchange, which is far more than I expected. How did you do it?" "Monopoly." There was pride in Xu Xiao's words. "When I collected the first-order elemental crystals before, I deliberately left a price difference in order to attract other players, thinking that they could use the method of buying and selling to gain profits from me. When the transaction came to an end, they found that I was the only one who actually received the first-order elemental crystal. They were afraid of losing it, so they threw it to me regardless of the cost." Lu Li raised his eyebrows. As expected of the squad leader, he is very powerful in his intrigues and tricks. Go. You'd better be polite to me now, I still have an IOU for 50,000 yuan crystals in my hand." IOU. Lu Li was really stunned this time. After Xu Xiao said this, he suddenly remembered that IOUs can be issued in the global trading market. The debtor can use his own life as collateral, plus a repayment period agreed by both parties to the transaction to write an IOU. The generated IOU is automatically sent to the creditor, and the debtor needs to repay the debt within the specified time. Pay it off on time and the IOU will disappear automatically. But if the payment is overdue, the debtor's data panel will disappear directly and his life will be taken away immediately. Because of this compulsion, few people will issue IOUs in the global trading market. Lu Li really didn't expect that Xu Xiao would discover this mechanism and take advantage of it. Who gave you that IOU? Xu Xiao looked at the message that popped up in the chat box and replied. There are several players, but they all claim to be from the Zhao family, saying that they will be able to pay back the money within 3 days with the guarantee of family honor. After a while, when Lu Li didn't reply, the pride on her face gradually turned into anxiety. Ah, shouldn't I let them pay the IOU? No, you did a good job. Lu Li replied, with admiration evident in every word. If you weren't a holy mother, I would really like to maintain a long-term cooperative relationship with you. A smile broke out in Xu Xiao's eyes again, and the corners of her mouth raised. Hey, it's not a transactional relationship. Oh, slip of the tongue, long-term trading relationship. Get out, I'll send you the IOU. Then you can just go to the Zhao family to collect the debt. I'm going to upgrade. Xu Xiao dropped the last sentence and made a transaction request to Lu Li. Lu Li smiled and agreed to the request and got the IOU for 50,000 yuan crystals. The remaining 3,000 yuan crystals were also put into the solvent. Taking into account the 80% discount effect, there are now a total of 104,156 experience points in Yuanjing dissolving mixture. Over 100,000 experience points. Enough. At the same time. Beijing, Zhao family. Blue light and shadow filled the room. Zhao Quan kept pacing, stroking the curved beard on his cheeks with his palms from time to time, as if waiting for something. Finally, the holographic projection flashed several times, and Zhao Jin's figure appeared in it. Zhao Quan frowned slightly and said, "What happened? It's so slow. How is the collection of high-level elemental crystals?" Zhao Jin's face didn't look good either, and his tone was a little stiff. There was an accident, clan elder. Luo Hong was captured. In order to ransom her, I used the high-level Yuan Jing in my inventory. What? Luo Hong was arrested. Which family did it? Zhao Quan's expression changed drastically and he asked sternly. It's not a family, it's an individual player named Lu Li. Lu Li. Zhao Quan took a deep breath, with a fearful look on his face. His surname is Lu, could he be from the Lu family? Zhao Jin shook his head. I checked. Although this Lu Li is an orphan, he grew up in an orphanage in Yangcheng. If it was the orphan of that family, how could the Lu family just sit back and do nothing? After hearing this, Zhao Quan felt relieved and said, as long as it has nothing to do with the Lu family, it's not easy to mess with such a behemoth even if it declines. Luo Hong has special abilities and is worth far more than high-level Yuan Jing. There is nothing wrong with your approach. Since there are not enough high-level elemental crystals, let's change the plan first. Your lineage will first collectively absorb the second-level elemental crystals to reach level 3. The remaining third-level elemental crystals will be sent to your brother. When Zhao Jin heard this, the expression on his face became even more ugly. Give all the third-order Yuan Jing to Zhao Mo. Why, clan elder, as a young Yuan Jing, shouldn't I ask him to give it to me evenly? Zhao Quan snorted coldly. Give you a little Yuan Jing. What's the use of giving it to you? The only useful person in your lineage, Chen Hao, is dead. Giving you the third-level Yuan Jing is a waste. It's better to give it all to Zhao Mo. He has dug up a lot of potential seeds in Hangzhou. The promotion tonight will definitely make the Zhao family's strength greatly increase. But, Zhao Jin wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Zhao Quan with a wave of his hand. Okay, you have Luo Hong's corpse crystal, so you don't have to worry about leveling up. This matter is settled, let your people absorb the Yuan crystal. On the outskirts of Yangcheng, in a certain unfinished building. Nearly an hour has passed since the last transaction. Qi Ziyu pinched the only second-order Yuan Jing, still feeling tight in his chest. He never expected that Xu Xiao was the only person in the entire trading market who actually received first-order Yuan Jing. Everyone else wants to replace the higher order elemental crystal with the first order elemental crystal. This resulted in Qi Ziyu having to exchange all the first order yuan crystals he earned to Xu Xiao. And the price is set by Xu Xiao. Although Qi Ziyu also thought about whether he should keep those first order elemental crystals for himself. But this idea only appeared for a moment and was immediately rejected by him. How to keep it? There are so many first order elemental crystals that are simply inconvenient to carry. So in the end, Qi Ziyu's gain is, at the cost of a third order elemental crystal, a second order elemental crystal was obtained. Not only did I not make any money, I actually lost money. Sell your mother's rotten pineapples, Xu Xiao, I will remember you. Qi Ziyu mechanically browsed the world chat channel, trying to relieve the depression in his heart in this way. Ding, there are changes in the level list. The prompt from the level list attracted his attention. As if it was an agreement, a large number of players increased their levels and entered the list. And Xu Xiao, who was regarded as a thorn in Qi Ziyu's side, was successfully promoted from level 3 to level 4. Ah, as expected, absorbed my third order elemental crystal. Qi Ziyu refreshed the level list with a frantic look on his face. Although there are many players now reaching level 3, because Qi Ziyu upgraded earlier than them, he is still ranked second and has not been squeezed out. This was not in line with Qi Ziyu's expectations. Meanwhile, he makes another horrific discovery. That's the top 100 players on the list. Except for Xu Xiao and Qi Ziyu themselves, the rest are all level 3. It's over, can this level be lowered? I don't want to stay in second place. Qi Ziyu almost cried. Qi Ziyu was quite happy when Xu Xiao took his first place. After all, those high-profile players in the chat channel love to cause hatred. He is the number one on the level list at every turn, punishing this one and killing that one. Calling a big boss at once made him really panic. But now, the players on the list are all level 3. Since everyone is at the same level, those at the bottom will naturally want to kill the players at the top in order to obtain rewards from the challenge mechanism. I don't know if Qi Ziyu's prayer had any effect. The ranking list has changed again. A large number of level 4 players poured in, pushing Qi Ziyu's ranking to 95th place. There are also many foreign names mixed in. Oh, foreign friends, if you work harder, if you add a few more, I will be kicked out of the list. Qi Ziyu stared at the list intently and rambled on. But in the end, his ranking was still set at number 100. The first 99 players are all level 4. It's just Qi Ziyu level 3. Still in last place. Not only is it dangerous now. And it's embarrassing. Wow, don't do that. Qi Ziyu sat down on the ground and began to figure out what to do next. At this moment, the level list suddenly shook. Qi Ziyu's name was squeezed out of the top 100 and disappeared from the list. Ha ha ha, God will not kill me. Let me see which good person rose to level 4 and knocked me out of the list. I have to add a friend to thank him. Qi Ziyu started looking for it on the list. But after searching all level 4 players, no new names were found. Until he inadvertently glanced at the number 1 on the ranking list. There is a new Chinese name hanging there. Lu Li, level 15. Level 15. Are you kidding me? Zhao Jin stared at the top of the ranking list with disbelief written all over his face. In the first 7 days of the apocalyptic game, the highest level of yuan crystal that players can obtain is only level 3. This is the information recorded in that ancient book, there is no way it can be wrong. Calculated based on 100 experience points for a third order elemental crystal, if you absorb 10 of them in a row, you can only reach level 9 at most. Even level 10 cannot be broken through. Why was this guy named Lu Li able to rise to level 15 instantly? Zhao Jin felt a little cold on his back. He slowly clicked on Lu Li's message. After seeing the coordinate point clearly, his pupils shrank sharply. Zhao Jin is extremely familiar with that position. This is the place where the Zhao family killed people and took books more than 10 years ago. Why are you in that place? Is Lu Li really the orphan of that family? It's impossible. If he was really an orphan, why would the Lu family let him grow up in an orphanage and ignore him? It must be a coincidence. Zhao Jin felt confident and sent 2 messages to Lu Li. Lu Li, I saw your coordinate point. Now please keep your promise and leave Luo Hong there. I will take someone to pick her up. In addition, I also hope that you can talk to me face to face. The Zhao family appreciates a capable player like you and hopes that you can join us. Although Zhao Jin is reckless, he is not stupid. As long as Lu Li was not an orphan from that family, the previous grudges were nothing. This person can still be co-opted. As long as Lu Li can be allowed to join the Zhao family, the yuan Jing used to redeem Luo Hong is not a waste. Lu Li did not block Zhao Jin's message. After a while, a reply came. However, there are only 2 simple words. Bring it on. Zhao Jin immediately called for the men to set off. Just as he got in the car, Zhao Quan sent another message. What happened? Lu Li, who is number 1 on the level list, couldn't be the Lu Li you said was the one who controlled Luo Hong. Zhao Jin quickly replied. It's this person. I'm going to meet him now and pick up Luo Hong. He is willing to see you. Very good. I don't care what happened to you before, but you must let Lu Li join the Zhao family. When Zhao Quan issued the order, there was irresistible majesty in every word. Don't worry, clan elder, Lu Li must be in the Zhao family's pocket and he can't escape. Even if he refuses, I will not let him leave alive. On the outskirts of Yangcheng, in an abandoned villa. Lu Li did not receive the upgrade treasure box immediately, but after feeling the attribute improvement brought by the sudden level increase, he opened the data panel. Lu Li title, Leap Level Kill. Level, LV.15. Strength, 15.8. Physique, 15.6. Speed, 15.9. Spirit, 15.2. Innate abilities. Soul Swallowing, Soul Points, 5142. Lightning Bolt, Diamond, Blade Arm, Emerald, Insect Swarm, Deterrence, Platinum, Bloody Slaughter, Platinum, Detection, Silver, Great Strength, Silver, Rapidity, Silver, Libra, Silver. Because he touched a lot of corpses in Tianyi Square, there were still a bunch of useless talents in the talent column, so Lu Li didn't continue to look down. He clicked on the attribute assignment interface. In the apocalyptic game, every time a player levels up, his 4-dimensional attributes will automatically increase by 1 point. In addition, you will also get 1 additional attribute point that can be distributed freely. Lu Li suddenly rose to level 15 and had a total of 15 free attribute points on hand. However, he did not distribute it immediately, but took out another thing from his pocket. It was a golden jelly bean. It's a good thing Lu Li got from the challenger's treasure chest. There are 2 in total. Item name, useless jelly beans. Quality, excellent. Function description. Swallowing this item will reveal hidden attributes, lasting 1 minute. Note, this thing is definitely not as useless as it seems. Lu Li threw the jelly beans into his mouth and checked the attribute allocation interface again. There was a 5th attribute on the panel that originally only had strength, physique, speed, and spirit. Luck, 0.8. Useless jelly beans are not really useless. On the contrary, its use is very mysterious. Because useless jelly beans are the only props that can permanently increase your luck. Of course, the prerequisite is to know how to use it. In his previous life, Lu Li had swallowed useless jelly beans many times. However, when he knew the exact usage, he didn't have many free attribute points left on hand, so the improvement in luck was not big. Now that he has been reborn, Lu Li plans to add all his free attribute points to luck. Anyway, other 4-dimensional attributes can be compensated through equipment and props in the later stage. There are many ways to improve them. Taking advantage of the luck attribute, Lu Li allocated all the free attribute points. The luck value increased as expected, to 15.8. Lu Li nodded with satisfaction and closed the data panel. After improving your strength, it's time for revenge. He turned his head and looked at Luo Hong, who was still kneeling on the ground. Luo Hong had been quietly paying attention to Lu Li, and when she saw him approaching, she immediately put on a miserable look. Lu Li, you. Before she could finish speaking, Chen Hao, who was standing by, kicked her hard again. Hold your words. Why can't you understand when I ask you to confess? Lu Li raised his hand to stop Chen Hao, stood in front of Luo Hong and asked. How about it, do you admit the sin you committed? Luo Hong's face was full of innocence and grievance. I really don't know what sin you are talking about. I have never been here, let alone what happened here. Are you still pretending? Lu Li put one hand on his forehead and smiled. Then let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, there were two girls. They were good friends since childhood. One is called Shaolin and the other is called Zhao Hong. The two people's family backgrounds are very different. Shaolin's family is well off, while Zhao Hong's family is relatively poor. But the two girls don't care about this. They only have each other in their eyes, and they only have the friendship that shines like stars. The two talked about everything and became the best of friends. Because Zhao Hong's family conditions are not good, Shaolin often lends a helping hand. When I was young, it was a few candies, and when I grew up, it was financial assistance. In the beginning, Zhao Hong was still grateful, but as time went by, everything became natural. Until one day, Shaolin's family fell into decline and she could no longer provide assistance to Zhao Hong as usual. It happened that at that time, Zhao Hong needed some money for her mother's surgery. Because of this incident, I couldn't raise the money for the surgery, and Zhao Hong's mother unfortunately passed away. Zhao Hong was very angry and had a big quarrel with Shaolin. She thinks it's all Shaolin's fault, and it was Shaolin who killed her mother. The friendship is broken and the two become strangers. Until one day, Zhao Hong accidentally got a piece of news that could revenge Shaolin and make herself rich at the same time. She didn't take into account any old feelings and sold Shaolin without hesitation. Even when Shaolin's family was ruined, she showed up and drove steel nails one after another into her best friend's body with her own hands. After saying this, Lu Li took his hands off his face and asked Luo Hong with frosty eyes. "What do you think of this story?" Zhao Hong. Luo Hong lowered his head, his lips trembled, and his eyes bulged out due to extreme fear. She stuttered and said, How do you know all this? This is impossible. The Zhao family was very secretive at the beginning, so you couldn't know. But I just know it." Lu Li stood up and looked down at Luo Hong, who was kneeling on the ground. "Is there anything else you want to say? Land from." Luo Hong shouted hurriedly, and then knocked his head to the ground twice. She wanted to crawl forward, hug Lu Li's legs and cry and beg. But Chen Hao kicked her back. "Ahem. I'm really sorry about your mother, very sorry. In fact, I haven't slept well since that day. The scene of your mother's death is recurring in my mind. Everything I did was forced by the Zhao family, and there was nothing I could do about it. Yes, I got the benefit from Zhao Jin, but if I didn't tell the whereabouts of the book at that time, Zhao Jin would kill my whole family. I really can't help it. Lu Li, please let me go, woo woo woo." As he spoke, Luo Hong began to cry. Lu Li remained unmoved and looked at the performance of the woman in front of him calmly. In the previous life, he might have believed Luo Hong's revelation of true feelings, spared this woman's life, and then let the tiger go back to the mountains. But once again, Lu Li would not be deceived by these acting skills again. "If you want to delay time, don't waste your efforts on acting. I will stay here until Zhao Jin comes over." Lu Li put his right hand into his pocket and rubbed the contents inside with his fingertips. "That's a thin ticket. It's a good thing he got from the challenger's chest." Luo Hong's sobbing stopped immediately when she heard Lu Li's words. After a while, she slowly raised her head. There was no expression of remorse on the tear-stained face, it was full of gloom and resentment. "Lu Li, you still have a choice. If you insist on killing me, Zhao Jin will definitely retaliate against you. By then, the entire Zhao family will bite you to the death. Your awakened talent is so great, and you still have a great life waiting for you. Do you really want to risk everything for two dead people who died more than 10 years ago?" Lu Li smiled coldly. The howling night wind blew into the villa, bringing with it the roar of car engines. "Zhao Jin is here." Luo Hong also heard the movement outside, and a sinister smile appeared on his gloomy face. She unexpectedly stood up from the ground unsteadily, and proudly spoke to Lu Li. "Did you hear that, Lu Li? Zhao Jin is already here, he is here to save me. Do you know the strength of the Zhao family? Do you know how long they have been preparing for the revival war? If I die, you will never get out of here alive." At this moment, Luo Hong felt the situation was reversed and felt extremely happy. Lu Li, who was standing opposite her, sighed softly, silently lamenting the despicability of human nature. Lu Li ignored the crazy Luo Hong and walked out of the villa. Car lights illuminated the villa, and the dark crowd blocked every exit. The pretending man stood at the door and looked at Lu Li expressionlessly. Where is Luo Hong? Zhao Jin said straight to the point. In the villa. Lu Li's answer was neither sad nor happy, and his tone was as calm as if he was saying hello to an acquaintance. Zhao Jin couldn't help but feel uneasy when he saw Lu Li being so calm. He has experienced life and death fights. We know that when people face threats, their bodies often react uncontrollably. These include agitation, body trembling, or involuntarily raising the voice. But Lu Li can be so calm, which means he must have someone to rely on. It seems that the clan master's judgment is correct. This person must be used by the Zhao family, otherwise there will be endless troubles. Zhao Jin rolled his eyes and spoke in a slightly softer tone. Lu Li, you are indeed a talent and you are qualified enough to join the Zhao family. As long as you nod, I can cancel everything that happened before. And after you join, the Zhao family will allocate most of their resources to you and train you as a core force. But if you persist, my people will keep you here forever. Zhao Jin is quite confident about recruiting. Ordinary people have no way to refuse coercion and inducement. But what surprised Zhao Jin was that after hearing the conditions he proposed, Lu Li's face showed no expression of excitement but instead showed a sarcastic smile. You two husband and wife, your brain circuits are really similar. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Hao dragged Luo Hong out of the villa like a dead dog. Before Zhao Jin had time to react, Chen Hao held Luo Hong's throat with his claws. Just a squeak sound was heard, and half of the throat was violently pulled out. For a moment, blood surged like a fountain. You, Lu Li, what do you mean? Zhao Jin's eyes were about to burst. Just answering your question. Lu Li took his right hand out of his pocket and tore off the coupon on the ticket. Not only will I not join the Zhao family, I will also destroy the Zhao family. Luo Hong's death is just the beginning. The ticket burst into flames in Lu Li's hand. Kill him. Zhao Jin realized something was wrong and immediately ordered. But it was still a step too late. The flames on the ticket expanded instantly and completely engulfed Lu Li. Welcome to the hub arena. You have been transferred to the waiting area and you will now be matched with a suitable opponent. The estimated waiting time is 10 minutes. Hearing a cheerful voice, Lu Li raised his leg and stepped out of the flames. Zhao Jin and the villa have disappeared, and the location is a space of 50 square meters. Everything you see is milky white, as if the entire space is cast and integrated. Seeing that there was no one around, Lu Li calmly called up the data panel and sent a message to Xu Xiao and Lin Qinfeng. The one given to Xu Xiao is to remind the other party to be careful about Zhao Jin. After all, he had just provoked the Zhao family. If Zhao Jin became crazy and wanted revenge, it would not be good to involve innocent people. The other one asked Lin Qinfeng how he was collecting things. As soon as the two messages were sent out, Xu Xiao had no reaction, but Lin Qinfeng sent the reply first. Time is a little tight, and combined with the Lin family's original reserves, we have only collected 700 kilograms of gold in total. The efficiency is quite high. Lu Li nodded slightly and replied. That's enough. Trade the gold to me first, and then you can continue to collect it. It will only be good for the Lin family and not harmful. Just one day ago, when Lin Qinfeng traded the Yuan Jing dugout from the digger bee to Lu Li, he received this order. Collect gold. Although Lin Qinfeng was confused about this order, he still obeyed it. After all, she was the one who made the oath to serve Lu Li as the leader of the Lin family. Moreover, now that the apocalypse has broken out, it is not difficult to collect gold. However, when Lin Qinfeng saw that Lu Li asked the Lin family to continue collecting gold, and said that it would only be good for the Lin family and not harmful, she could no longer suppress her curiosity. Lin Qinfeng cautiously said, Mr. Lu, can I ask you the specific purpose of collecting gold? Lin Qinyu stuffed potato chips into her mouth, and happened to see what her eldest sister was typing in the chat box, and said angrily. What other specific uses can there be? This Lu Li is just a poor man and a money addict. Lin Qinfeng frowned and scolded. Qin Yu, no matter what, Mr. Lu is the benefactor of the Lin family. If you are so rude again, don't blame me for taking advantage of the family. Lin Qinyu shrank her neck when she heard this and stopped talking. She just grabbed a handful of potato chips and stuffed them into her mouth as if to vent her anger. Lu Li replied, I can't tell you the specific purpose for the time being. Just pay attention and collect it. There's no need to be deliberate. Also, pay attention to Zhao Jin in the past 2 days. If there is any big move, remember to tell me in time. Okay, but it's a pity that the Lin family is weak now, and all we can find out is only superficial. Mr. Liu, don't be in a hurry. After Lin Qinfeng said this, he suddenly regretted it. Although the Lin family now officially recognizes Lu Li as their master, Lu Li has also promised to solve the Lin family's problems. But in the final analysis, the Lin family's revenge should always be avenged by the Lin family. Lu Li was strong, but after all, he was only one person. Would it be too much to force him to bear the burden of family disputes? However, Lu Li's answer surprised Lin Qinfeng. Have some confidence in your master. I guarantee that within 3 days, the Zhao family and Zhao Jin will completely disappear in Yangcheng. With the power of one person, he can fight against the entire family. This is something Lin Qinfeng would never dare to think about. Maybe he really can. Lin Qinhua suddenly spoke, calling up the data panel and gesturing to Lin Qinfeng to look at it. Sister, you have been busy collecting gold these 2 days and have not paid attention to the level list. Look who is number 1 now. Lin Qinfeng took a closer look. It's Lu Li, but the level list is not the combat power list, so it doesn't mean. Before she finished speaking, the eldest sister of the Lin family opened her mouth into an O shape. She saw Lu Li's level. Level 15. How is this possible? So, the Lin family can be considered to have a strong thigh this time, and it is also a very handsome strong thigh. Lin Qinhua held her chin in her hands, her eyes full of care. Lu Li closed the chat box and suddenly sneezed. He rubbed his nose and said to himself, someone is scolding me. It's probably Zhao Jin. Just wait, I'll spread your ashes when I get out. In fact, it was not that Lu Li couldn't defeat Zhao Jin. With his current soul points, he can condense 100 level 3 soul soldiers and 2 level 5 soul guards. Coupled with various talents obtained through devouring, Lu Li's combat prowess can be described as terrifying. The reason for temporarily avoiding the edge is because Zhao Jin is out in force. If he really wanted to fight, Zhao Jin could kill him, but Lu Li was also at risk of death. For Lu Li, this was not necessary at all. Early time is precious, so he must seize the opportunity to develop. After all, the Zhao family is not the only one on Lu Li's revenge list. There are more powerful forces and more terrifying existences to deal with. He must play steadily and step by step. Just as Lu Li was talking to himself, flames burst into flames again in the enclosed space. A figure in ragged clothes and covered in black ash fell out of it, fell to the ground and let out a cry of pain. Lu Li's eyes fell on the opponent's animal ears, and he couldn't help but be surprised. A Palu guy actually came. It seems that the hub arena's rating of my combat power is not low. The hub arena, as its name suggests, is the center that connects various star regions. Players from different planets can teleport to this area by using arena ticket. Arena tickets are further subdivided into 2 types. The first type of blue ticket can transport users directly to the auditorium. There is no danger in the whole process. Players can watch the competition, exchange information and even exchange items in the arena. The second type of red ticket is the one Lu Li used before. It's just that Lu Li's ticket was obtained from the challenge treasure chest, and it also had a gold-edged pattern. The ticket will transport the player to the waiting room to compete with opponents of equal strength. There are 3 modes of competition in the arena. They are single-player combat, 2-player cooperation, and a 5-player team. This can be judged from the color of the waiting room. Black single-player combat, white 2-player combat, and gray 5-player combat. Fighters who use their tickets for the first time will be randomly assigned a mode by the hub arena. Lu Li happened to be in 2-player cooperative mode this time. Before the gray-faced Peru man could get up from the ground, the entire milky white space suddenly trembled. In the most conspicuous position, 3 rules slowly emerged. Hub arena competition rules double. 1. There are no restrictions on the competition. Once you enter the waiting area, you must participate in the competition. The competition cannot end unless the winner is determined. 2. After the competition starts, the player's data panel will be temporarily locked. Players cannot use the panel for activities such as chatting, trading, and adding 4-dimensional attribute points. 3. During the competition, you are not allowed to bribe or attack the referee. If there are any violations, the referee can immediately kill the players. Seeing these rules, Lu Li raised his brows and finally felt relieved. As in the previous life, the rules have not changed. This means that Lu Li can implement his plan before the game starts. As the waiting countdown ended, the waiting room trembled again. The rules on the wall were broken and reorganized, turning into a gate painted with simple figures. The next second, the click sound of the lock turning was heard. The door painted with simple figures slowly opened. Behind the door is a long corridor. Standing at the door was a strange robot wearing a blue and white striped suit and an exaggerated inverted triangle mask on his face. It said hello in a high and strange tone. Hello, newbies in the arena. I am the referee of this competition, the embodiment of absolute fairness, Dio Jiaoshan. Next, I will lead the two of you into a wonderful battle. Please follow me. After saying this, referee Dior made a gesture of invitation. But the Palu people were still confused, and Lu Li still sat on the pile of gold without moving. The robot put its hand to its mouth, made several electronic coughing sounds, and said in an awkward tone. Ahem, you two, there is no point in dilly-dallying. After using the arena ticket, you must compete to determine the winner. This is the rule. We have to decide the outcome. The Palu murmured in a soft voice, as if she was a girl. Can you just admit defeat? As soon as these words came out, Lu Li was so frightened that he fell from the pile of gold to the ground. Judge Dior straightened up and asked in a long tone. Are you sure you want to admit defeat directly? No, we're going to compete. Lu Li quickly answered. If we really want to admit defeat directly, the consequences will be very serious. The hub arena is all about fighting. If the contestant who uses the ticket chooses to admit defeat before the game starts, the referee will be angry. The consequence of being angry is to kill the two players on the spot. Oh, it seems that the two of you did not discuss it before making the decision. Let's do this. I will give you 30 seconds to discuss. Please decide whether to participate in the competition or surrender directly. Referee Dior crossed his arms and leaned against the door, looking anxiously waiting. Lu Li quickly came to Palu's side, pulled him up from the ground, and whispered. You must participate in the game. If you admit defeat directly, you will be wiped out by the referee on the spot. But if you participate, you will lose. The Perulu man lowered his head, the animal ears on his head drooped, and did not dare to look into Lu Li's eyes. If I lose the battle and get no reward, I will still die when I go back. It's no wonder she is so timid. After all, the Parlu people live on the most marginalized planet, and they are the lowest among the lowest in terms of talent and strength. If you can't do it yourself, don't you still have me? Give it a try. What if you can win? Lu Li advised earnestly. Hearing this, the Parlu man glanced at Lu Li quickly, then lowered his head, seeming to be even more hopeless. You are just a monkey man. You may be smarter than me, but in terms of fighting, you cannot be the opponent of those higher beings. Monkey man. Lu Li's eyes twitched. Dare to love the other party because they regard themselves as Palu people and directly regard them as their own kind with low strength. Anyway, admitting defeat is death, and participating in the competition is also death, so why not participate in the competition? Every extra second of life is a second. Lu Li didn't bother to explain and just forcefully brainwashed him. Anyway, as long as the Palu people agree to participate in the competition, the rest can go as planned. Whatever, the Palu man muttered in despair, which finally made Lu Li feel relieved. Referee, let's compete. Upon hearing this, Judge Dior changed his anxious look and spoke again in a high tone. That's great. Please come with me, let's step into the wonderful world together. Wait for the referee. Before Dio could finish speaking, Lu Li interrupted again. He turned around and picked up a gold brick from the ground and handed it to the referee. Referee, before the game starts, I would like to ask you a favor. Oh, Referee Dior leaned back exaggeratedly, looked at Lu Li, and then at the gold brick in Lu Li's hand. Blatantly bribing the referee. Didn't you read the rules? Lu Li smiled with a smile on his face. That's right. The rules clearly say, you are not allowed to bribe the referee during the fight. The fight hasn't started yet. And this isn't considered a bribe. I'm just asking the referee to do you a favor. Dio was stunned and stood up again. Lu Li took the opportunity to hand over the gold brick in his hand. Dio took the gold brick, looked at it carefully, and whispered in a voice that only Lu Li could hear. Adamantine, 99%, rare. Forget it this time, don't do it next time. Do you want me to favor you in the next game, or do you want me to give you a weaker opponent? Lu Li shook his head. How can I ask the referee to do such embarrassing things? I just want you to give me the qualifications to be a challenger. What are the qualifications of a challenger? Dio leaned back again and looked Lu Li up and down. Then he took out a temperature measuring gun from somewhere and tickled it near Lu Li's ear. 36.8. Body temperature is normal. You don't have a fever either. Why are you still talking nonsense? Do you know what you will face after becoming a challenger? Lu Li nodded. I know that after becoming a challenger, gladiator mode will be enabled, and you must play 3 games in a row, otherwise you will not be able to leave the hub arena. Dior tossed the gold brick in his hand and said in a joking tone. Then do you know that you cannot admit defeat in the gladiatorial mode? Only death can end the competition. Clear. Are you sure you want this qualification? Sure, that doesn't take that much fine gold. Dio put his hands behind his back, and when he took them out again, the gold bricks and thermometer gun were gone. Instead, there was a contract with red letters on a black background. No, I want it. Lu Li said solemnly. Because I don't just want to play 3 games, I want to play 100 games. As soon as the words were spoken, the entire waiting room was filled with silence. Lu Li even heard the soft sound of the gears in Dio's body jamming at this moment. What's wrong with you, kid? Fighting 100 times in a row. What's the difference between this and seeking death? Dio's head popped out suddenly, connected to his body only by a spring as thick as an arm. One last small request. Please don't dispose of the bodies on the field before the fight is over. Lu Li took half a step back and pointed at the pile of gold waiting in the center of the room. A total of 700 kilograms of fine gold, please Judge Dio. Dio hurriedly put his head back on his neck and took small steps to the edge of the gold. Don't deal with the corpses on the field yet. I didn't expect to meet a heavy-handed lunatic just after I got to work. But for the sake of adamantine, if you want to fight 100 times, just fight 100 times. As he spoke, the gold disappeared out of thin air. Dio pulled out a contract with gold characters on a black background and handed it to Lu Li. After he signed, he announced in a loud voice. Waiting room number 666, competition mode change. Gladiator Lu Li, Gladiator Alyssa Bucky are ready to challenge. 100 life and death battles are about to begin. Hearing Dio's announcement, Alyssa, who was leaning against the wall, almost fainted from fright. Judging from what the monkey man did just now, he should be bribing the referee. But why did the result of bribery change from the original competitive competition to a life and death gladiatorial battle? And he still played 100 games in a row. In Alyssa's understanding, even gods from high plains cannot win 100 games in a row in the arena. There is simply no one left in this wave of reverse operations. What am I expecting? After all, I can't escape the fate of death. Alyssa smiled bitterly. She thought about dying, but she never thought that she would die in such a bizarre way. A fighting scumbag, Catman, chose the 100-game gladiatorial mode when he entered the arena for the first time. She would become a joke that would be passed down from generation to generation in Parlu's mouth. Lu Li, what a madman. However, just when Alyssa was desperate, Lu Li was thinking about something else. He wondered if he had given the referee too much gold, so that the other party agreed so readily. If I had known earlier, I would have asked for 200 consecutive games. The reason why he took such a risk was not because Lu Li was not stable enough. This is all the result of careful consideration. In ordinary arena battles, no matter whether they win or lose, the contestants will not really die. Even if he was killed on the spot, he would only be kicked out of the hub arena temporarily. After 7 days, if you use the ticket again, you can still come back and continue to participate in the competition. Because it was not death in the true sense, Lu Li's soul-swallowing ability could not function. If you win, you can only get small rewards and a few pivot points from the arena, which will only marginally improve your own strength. But the gladiatorial mode is different. Players will actually die during the battle, and the rewards provided by the arena will be more generous after victory. And there is another crucial point. Those who dare to participate in gladiatorial games are players who are confident in their own strength. In other words, they are all geniuses. Only by plundering their talents can Lu Li increase his strength by leaps and bounds in a very short period of time. As for safety, Lu Li also took it into consideration. Because it was his first time participating in the competition, even if the hub arena rated his strength well, he still had the title of newcomer, after all. Newcomers naturally have a protection period for newcomers. Therefore, even if you turn on the gladiatorial mode, you will not be matched with experienced players who are incredibly powerful. In the hub arena, time passes at different speeds between different areas. So when Lu Li and Alyssa walked out of the long corridor, a large number of billboards had been hung in the center of the arena. The 4 large screens took turns to show the appearances of Lu Li and Alyssa, and eye-catching titles were printed one after another. The arrogant challenger from the dust world. The number of arenas you can never imagine. Is it the epitaph of a reckless and arrogant person? Or is it a roar that buries genius? Epic odds like never before. An unparalleled gladiatorial feast, let's wait and see. Looking at those exaggerated slogans, Lu Li twitched the corner of his mouth. Otherwise, the hub arena is the center connecting various star regions. The marketing techniques are amazing. Even he himself began to look forward to what kind of matchup would happen in the next game. At this moment, there were various discussions in the auditorium around the arena. Of course, ridicule and disdain accounted for the majority. After all, most of those who can sit in the audience have participated in competitive matches. Even newcomers who have never participated can learn a lot of useful information from the mouths of old players. I really didn't expect that I have used more than 100 blue tickets. Today is the first time I see a newcomer challenging 100 gladiatorial games in a row. Who says it's not the case? There are very few newcomers who can win 3 games in a row. Didn't you see how the advertisement was posted? I come from the dust world. Those players who come out of the nook and cranny are all frogs in the well who don't know how big the world is. They don't know how powerful the arena is, so they talk arrogantly. Ha 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 ha, it really made me laugh to death. I want to see what these 2 people are capable of and how brave they are. But don't tell me, the referees in this arena are not fools. Why would they start 100 fights for a newcomer? I guess he wants to build momentum and attract attention. This newcomer should have some strength, but 100 games in a row is too exaggerated. I'm starting to look forward to today's betting. If you're the banker in the arena, as long as you buy a newcomer and lose, isn't that making money? Don't think about it. The odds are definitely very low and you won't make much money. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. Besides, in this game that's certain, I'll definitely win. Wow, it's such a big game, don't lose your pants by then. Stop talking nonsense. Do you believe that a newcomer can win 100 consecutive games? Hurry up and follow my brother's footsteps. I invite you to make a fortune together. Why don't you say thank you quickly? Just as the atmosphere in the entire arena was getting more and more heated, referee Dior, who was standing in the middle of the arena waiting for the game to start, also quietly contacted the dealer who opened the deal. My dear, place a bet for me. If Lu Li and Alyssa win 100 consecutive games, the bet will be 700 kilograms of fine gold. After a while, the dealer came with a question. Judge Dio, a warm reminder, this 100 fights have attracted the attention of the Supreme Heaven. Are you sure you want to play with fire under his nose? Of course not, dear, I am the embodiment of absolute fairness. The reason why I participated in the bet is just a little bit optimistic about this new contestant. By the way, what are the odds of winning 100 games in a row? The dealer sent another reply. It has not been decided yet, but the initial odds should be 500,000 to 1. If you bet on 700 kilograms of fine gold, once you win, it will be 350,000 tons of fine gold. With such a huge amount, Hub Arena may not be able to cash it in right away. Are you sure you want to place a bet? Dio shook his head. Of course, dear, we all know that the arena never defaults on its debt. Besides, it can also be converted into a pivot point. The croupier looked at the news in front of him and gave his last advice. But that's 700 kilograms of fine gold, not a small amount of money. Dior's reply was simple and arrogant. Anyway, it's just a bribe from a newcomer, so what are you afraid of if you get it for nothing? The croupier took a breath and was actually a little moved. Although winning 100 consecutive games is an impossible task, the odds of 500,000 to 1 are really crazy. Even if you press one pivot point, you can earn 500,000 points with your backhand. How about I follow a little bit? After all, placing bets in the hub arena relies on supercomputers. As a beautiful dealer, she is only responsible for checking bets and registering bets. Just for fun, she bet 10 key points for Luli's victory. At this moment, a loud bell rang in the arena. 100 battles have begun. As the bell rang to start the game, the fear on Alyssa's face finally reached its peak. Dying, her legs couldn't help trembling, and she could hardly support her thin body. At this moment, she was suddenly tapped on the shoulder. Alyssa turned her head and saw the handsome face of the monkey man. If you don't want to die, just find a place to hide yourself. If a fight breaks out, I might not be able to take care of you. You, find a place to hide. Alyssa's eyes widened as she watched Luli walk forward without looking back. Is this monkey man planning to fight 1 against 2? Just as Alyssa was stunned, the iron door of the opposite corridor suddenly opened. 2 tall men with strong bodies and bodies covered with brown rocks walked out of it. Oops, we actually faced the stone-skinned man from the very beginning. Alyssa's heart clenched tightly. She was very familiar with the attributes of stone-skinned people. As one of the many races that enslave the Peru people, the stone-skinned people can be said to account for the majority. Their IQs are generally not high, but they possess amazing physical strength. Their strength and physique are far superior to those of the Palu people. The brown rock covering its body is a layer of natural armor, providing the stone-skinned people with considerable defense. A stone-skinned man can easily handle dozens of Peru people with his bare hands. Monkey Man Luli had to deal with 2 of them at once. How could he win? Gulong. The stone-skinned man soon spotted Luli on the field, grinning his ugly mouth and letting out a weird roar. The 2 bloated bodies leaned forward and charged like an out-of-control locomotive. Alyssa gasped and covered her eyes in fear. However, the next second, the expected scream did not come. Instead, there were 2 muffled sounds of heavy objects falling to the ground. Alyssa slowly opened her eyes and saw the body lying not far away through the gap between her fingertips. It's Stoneskin. The Stoneskin man was actually killed. How can this be? The entire audience was silent at this moment. After half a second, the audience burst into amazing cheers. All go, am I right? That little skinny guy knocked down 2 stone-skinned men at once. Hey, did you see his movements clearly? It's so fast. It seems that this newcomer named Luli is good at speed. Hey, his weapon seems to be transformed directly with his right hand. I thought it was a prop at first. His talent is shape-changing. Look at the sharp blade transformed from his right hand. I think this kid has 2 skills. He might be able to win hundreds of games in a row. TCH, it's just the beginning. Maybe it's just luck that this kid happened to catch the stone-skinned man's weakness. That's right, look at the wounds on the stone-skinned man's body. They are all parts that are not protected by rocks. Feeling the louder sounds around him, Luli's expression remained calm. Gently flicking the blood on the blade, he quietly activated his soul-devouring ability on the 2 stone-skinned corpses. Swallow LV. 6 stone-skinned souls x2, soul points plus 30. Plunder ability, mountain shaking, gold times 2. It is detected that the ability, mountain shaking, can be advanced. Will the advanced mission be triggered? Whether. It has been detected that the abilities, mountain shaking, and giant strength, are both strength abilities. Do you want to strengthen the fusion? Luli raised his eyebrows lightly, and instead of choosing to strengthen the fusion, he chose to trigger the advanced mission. There are still 99 games left to play, and maybe we can complete the task along the way. Ding! The ability advancement task has been triggered. Task content. Complete 20 kills using only the Power System ability. Task reward. Challenger treasure box times 5. The ability, Mountain Shaking, is upgraded to platinum level. Number of kills 0/20. Above the stands, in a luxuriously decorated box, a woman in gorgeous clothes leaned lazily on the sofa and looked at Lu Li in the center of the arena with interest. After a while, she picked up a berry from the fruit plate and spoke slowly. How many games do you think this newcomer below can win? Back to Madam, I don't think he can survive 5 games. Oh, no, it's 3 games. A young man with a delicate face and fair skin walked out from behind the sofa, knelt on the ground respectfully and said. Most of his body was naked, with only a simple bib covering his private parts. Tell me why. The woman handed the berry to the young man, who immediately reached out to take it and quickly put it in his mouth. Then, using mouth-to-mouth method, he fed it into the woman's big mouth. Well, judging from the newcomer's first kill, he should be a melee player who is good at speed. And those 2 stone-skinned people are good at strength and physique, but they lack speed the most. That kid can win because he uses his own strengths to offset the other's weaknesses. He's just lucky. The woman listened to the fair-skinned young man's analysis and gave a perfunctory hum, seemingly not agreeing with it. Soon, another blond man with the same scantily clad clothes knelt on the ground and said in a respectful tone. Madam, I think the newcomer might be able to win 10 consecutive games. Oh, tell me your reasons. The woman picked up a berry again and handed it to the blond man. The latter took it directly with his mouth, and by the way, he also stuck out his tongue and licked the woman's fingertips teasingly. This little gesture seemed to please the woman, making her giggle. The blond man took the opportunity to kneel forward and put the berries into the woman's mouth. He even sucked on it a few times intentionally. Madam, if the newcomer is just good at speed, there is no way he can kill 2 stone-skinned people in such a short time. Although Stoneskin lacks speed, he has above-average defense. The newcomer can kill with 1 blow, his strength is extraordinary. As soon as the blond man finished speaking, a disdainful voice suddenly came from the darkness behind the woman. Tisk, since his strength is very important, why do you think he can only win 10 consecutive victories? Instead of 20 consecutive victories, or even 100 consecutive victories? As soon as these words came out, the woman's chewing movements immediately stopped. In the private room, the originally warm atmosphere suddenly dropped to freezing point. There was a squirming movement under the woman's skirt, and immediately several tentacles protruded from it and shot towards the back quickly. Not long after, a man with dark skin and strong muscles was rolled up and dragged to the woman. The woman opened her big mouth slightly, revealing a row of fine teeth. Xiao Weiwei, I have said many times that to be my male favorite, you must be of high quality. Little or Few was only halfway through what he was saying. Why did you interrupt him? The dark-skinned man looked frightened and struggled to say something. But the greasy tentacles had already silenced his mouth. Well, for the sake of fairness, I have to interrupt you. After the woman said this, the tentacles restraining the black man suddenly retracted. 1 second he was still an extremely strong body, and the next second he turned into 2 piles of bloody rotten flesh. It's such a pity that this body of flesh is so beautiful. The woman wiped her blood-stained tentacles on the white-skinned male pet. The latter was trembling all over, but he didn't dare to avoid it at all. Xiao Benben, go ask the people in the arena to clean up. Xiao or Few, let's continue watching the game. The 2 people whose names were called responded immediately. Among them, the white-skinned man climbed up from the ground tremblingly and quickly walked out of the box. The blond man crawled to the woman on his knees and squatted on the ground obediently like a dog. The game continues below. Seeing that Lu Li easily won his first victory, Dio immediately ran to the center of the field with small steps. After all, in addition to being a referee, he also serves as a gladiatorial host. After confirming that the 2 stone-skinned people were dead, Dio immediately announced in an exaggerated voice. Congratulations to our challenger for his first victory. Please invite the following 2 defenders to appear. Without any intention of letting Lu Li rest, another iron door slowly opened. When the figure inside appeared in the arena, the discussion in the audience became loud again. Oh, it's the Tyranids. Well, even though he is only the lowest level of Swift Insect Man, he is famous for his speed. Isn't this the arena that's causing trouble? Knowing that Lu Li is good at speed, he specially arranged for his second opponent to be a Swift Insect. Is this a competition to see who is faster? What else is there to compare with? What the swift insects are best at is sneak attacks. That kid Lu Li is dead. Before the discussion in the audience stopped, 2 swift insect men had already launched an attack on Lu Li. Compared with the previous rampage of the stone skin people, the attack route of the swift insect people was obviously much more tricky. One of them was in front to attract Lu Li's attention, while the other walked around half a circle and came behind Lu Li. Just when everyone thought that they needed to be extremely vigilant to deal with this flanking attack, Lu Li unexpectedly put away his preparations for war. Even the blade on his right arm disappeared and turned into a hand again. This is giving up treatment directly. HMPH, you know you can't beat me, so why don't you even struggle? I've told you a long time ago that this newcomer is only faster. He has nothing to do against the swift insect men who are good at sneak attacks. One after another cynicism came from the audience, and almost no one believed that Lu Li could survive this attack. Seeing that Lu Li had lowered his guard, the 2 swift bugmen who were besieging him were also happy, and their movement speed accelerated again. But just when the 2 were about to succeed, Lu Li's figure suddenly dwarfed. Immediately afterwards, the audience saw one of the swift bug men flying up. To be precise, Lu Li grabbed one of his legs and swung it into the air. No one realized what happened. Even Dio, the always keen referee, was stunned at this moment. Just listen to a muffled, bang, sound. The swift insect man who was caught by Lu Li and struck like a meteor hammer hit another companion hard. The huge force directly smashed the insect beetle, and the green insect blood burst out and splashed all over the ground. The 2 bugmen didn't even come back to their senses before they died. There was silence. After a while, there was a buzz of discussion. Did I read that correctly? Lu Li grabbed one of the insect men and hit the other one with it. Who said this newcomer is only good at speed, and someone who is good at speed can beat his opponent like a meteor hammer? Hey, you see, those 2 insect men seem to be dead. This method is too violent. What's the point of violence? The weight of a swift insect is inherently light. Low weight. Go up and give it a try. I'm not a challenger. Anyway, the swift bug people are easier to deal with than the stone skin people. Although most of the audience still questioned Lu Li's strength and thought he was opportunistic. But at least it's not like before, where everyone is pessimistic. Alyssa huddled in the corner, now so shocked that she couldn't even close her mouth. Although the 2 swift bugmen did not target her. But in the arena, she could fully feel the opponent's strength. These 2 swift insect men are stronger than the stone-skinned men. But the monkey man named Lu Li could kill them with his bare hands. Not even weapons are used. He doesn't seem to be from Palu. Alyssa looked at Lu Li blankly. Male Perus will have short hair on their faces. Only a female Palu like her can have hairless and smooth skin. Lu Li didn't have short hair on his face. Therefore, he is not a Peru at all, let alone a monkey man among the Peru. Who is he? Alyssa's doubts grew stronger. Dior's exaggerated voice sounded again. 2 consecutive wins. Please invite the following 2 defenders to appear. Next, it was a boring time for Lu Li to kill his opponents again and again. The defenders who came up were all kinds of strange, and Lu Li's postures against them were also different. Some were directly knocked away with one punch. Some were kicked to death. What was even more exaggerated was that he was slapped so hard by Lu Li that his head flew far away. There are all kinds of ways to die. The only thing that was the same was that Lu Li never used a weapon. All were done with bare hands, and the violence reached the extreme. This makes those viewers who admire power very enjoyable. They even started to be optimistic about Lu Li and started cheering for him. In a certain box, a woman in gorgeous clothes got up from the sofa and stood in front of the glass looking down at the arena below. Her face, full of fat folds, was already filled with intense interest. Such a violent fighting style. The blonde little Orpheus lay aside, kissed the hem of the woman's skirt, and said meekly, "Madam, if you want him, why don't you come over and discuss it with the Supreme Heaven?" The woman chuckled, stretched out her finger and tapped little Orpheus' forehead. Quite attentive. "Why, aren't you afraid that if I get Lu Li, you will fall out of favor?" Orpheus rubbed the back of the woman's hand with his face and responded obediently. "The meaning of my existence is to make Madam happy. As long as Madam likes it, little Orpheus is willing to do anything." The woman smiled even more happily, and her bloated body kept shaking, like a huge and disgusting jelly. Among my male favorites, you are the smartest. Go and say hello to that old boy from the supreme heaven. I want this Lu Li. Inside the arena, Lu Li activated Swallowing Soul, and his soul points increased again. Including the previous accumulated number, his soul points have reached 5,476 points. Absorb another 30 points, and the upper limit of soul soldiers can be increased by 50. Although there were 11 battles, Lu Li won every one easily. But no matter how you say it, it is a continuous battle. In addition, in order to complete the ability advancement task, Lu Li only used the strength system talent. The whole process of violent hand-to-hand combat consumes a lot of physical energy. So in the next battle, he planned to use soul soldiers to assist him. While recovering your physical fitness, you can also have a good understanding of your newly acquired talents. But the ability advancement mission seems to be intentionally targeting Lu Li. Several missions in a row required Lu Li to kill his opponents personally. What's more, Lu Li was asked to exchange injuries for injuries and break through his own limits. If you don't want to lose your new abilities, you need to lose your physical fitness. Even risking your life. Arena Underground, Center Console. Screens of all sizes filled the entire space, and people were busy coming and going to maintain the operation of the arena. In the center of the space, in front of a huge screen, Supreme Sky was sitting on a huge chair, holding his chin in a fist with one hand, and narrowed his 6 eyes slightly, staring intently at the picture on the screen. As the manager of the Hub Arena, Supreme Heaven has seen many dazzling new stars during his tenure. But this was the first time he had seen a madman like Lu Li who demanded 100 gladiatorial fights from the very beginning. I thought it was a newborn calf, but I didn't know how high the sky was. But after 11 games, the Supreme Heaven discovered a shocking fact. Lu Li did not use all his strength. He didn't even show 1/10 of his strength. Except for the use of transformation, in the first game, changing his right arm into a blade. In the next 10 games, Lu Li beat his opponents with his bare hands. Although Ji Gao Tian himself can do it, his level is much higher than Lu Li. And as a member of the Titan clan, close combat is the strength of the Supreme Heaven. If restrictions were imposed, he would most likely not be Lu Li's opponent at the same level. Is he the chosen one from the realm? Supreme Heaven murmured, then shook his head. How could the realm of heavenly selection appear so easily? What's more, he had investigated and found that Lu Li came from an unknown and remote planet. How could a golden phoenix fly out of such a remote place? Some secret method must have been used. Hundreds of gladiatorial battles, haha, since you like to pretend, then I will satisfy you. In the 12th game, reveal all your trump cards first. In the arena, following Dior's exaggerated announcement, the iron door of the corridor opened again. However, this time, what came out were 2 women holding sickles, one dressed in black and the other in white. The sharp-eyed people in the audience immediately recognized it and exclaimed, "It's the black and white 2 evils. I really didn't expect that these 2 killing gods would appear in the 12th game. It's over, Lu Li is gone. 11 consecutive victories, it can be considered the end. It's a pity, I quite like his violent style of play." Dio glanced at Lu Li sympathetically and whispered, "Boy, you'd better be more vigilant. This opponent is not easy to deal with." Lu Li nodded, but there wasn't much seriousness on his face. He could sense what was going on in the arena. Sending 2 powerful veteran players in advance was just to see what methods they had yet to use. "Since you want to reveal my trump card, I will show you a few cards." This time, before the opponent could move, Lu Li made the first move. I saw red mist quickly oozing out from his body, shooting towards one of the women. The latter raised his scythe and held it in front of him, apparently intending to resist Lu Li's attack. The other person launched an attack from the side, disrupting Lu Li's attack rhythm. Seeing that the 3 of them were about to collide, the audience shook their heads and lamented. How could a newcomer to the arena, even a genius, defeat the black and white demons? Sure enough, after a burst of weapons parrying, Lu Li's body was severely penetrated by the sickle. Although it is not a critical point, in the eyes of the audience, it is already beyond repair. You see, what I said is right, no one can win 100 games in a row. If you bet Luli and lose, you will make money. Well, newcomers are still newcomers after all. Compared with old players, there are still many gaps. What a pity for such a genius. The black and white Shuangxia thought the same way. But they still have a little strange feeling in their hearts. Why did the rookie in front of him, who could win 11 games in a row, become so reckless in the 12th game? Even if you are going to lose, you shouldn't lose so quickly. Luli gave the two of them the feeling as if he had bumped into the knife's edge on purpose. But strangely enough, the sickle actually penetrated the opponent's body. Bai Sha exerted force on his arm, trying to pull the weapon out of Luli's body. But at this moment, Luli, who was seriously injured, suddenly raised his head and smiled strangely at her. When no one expected, Luli grabbed the scythe on his chest with both hands and pushed the blade into his body bit by bit. Are you crazy? Xiao was a white evil spirit who had killed countless people. When he saw Luli being so weird, he couldn't help but scream. But what answered her was a burst of dazzling white light. Close your face and open it up. The roar of lightning arrows resounded throughout the audience. Luli was knocked away by the impact of the explosion, while Bai Sha paid the price with his head shattered. The Haisha on the side didn't even realize what happened. Then another extremely fast black shadow appeared out of thin air and cut off her head neatly. In the 12th game, Luli wins again. The whole place was in an uproar. Luli calmly got up from the ground, took off his clothes and simply covered the wound on his stomach. As early as the 7th game, Luli had plundered the healing talent from his opponent. Platinum level extreme healing. However, Luli did not intend to treat his injuries immediately. With the continuous effect of bloody massacre, all damage is a gain to him. Moreover, an injured challenger is more likely to make those defending players become careless. Discussions rang out in the audience again. Am I right? The black and white evil spirits were killed by Luli. What was the white light that exploded in Luli's hand just now? It seems to be an attack method only available in the elemental system. Element. Isn't Luli's talent shape-changing? The white light just now should be the prop he prepared. Don't just look at the white evil. How did the black evil die? Who can tell me? Did he be killed by that Palu man? How is it possible? The Palu man has been huddled in the corner and has not moved at all. Hey, if Luli fights 15 games, maybe he can win consecutively. It's a pity that this fool asked for 100 games and got seriously injured so early. Yes, the remaining defenders don't even need to take action. Just standing there and stalling for time will make Luli bleed to death. Newcomers are still newcomers. They have no experience and will die from their own arrogance. The Supreme Heaven is obviously aware of this. Therefore, the defenders dispatched are no longer sharp new stars, but balanced players with average strength. No longer eager to attack, but adopting a defensive stance to delay time. But what he didn't expect was that this move would play into Luli's plan. In the next battle, because the opponent didn't take the initiative to attack, it actually allowed Luli to be more free. Several times, the kills were clean and crisp, shocking the spectators around the venue. And Luli himself. Not only have I completed several advanced tasks, but my soul points have continued to rise, heading towards the 10,000 point mark. Although he was clearly, seriously injured, he gave people the feeling that he was becoming more courageous as he fought. By the time Supreme Heaven realized something was wrong, Luli had already won his 50th victory. Severely injured, he became more courageous as he fought. Is it possible that this newcomer's physique is stronger than that of the stone-skinned man? The Supreme Sky frowned, thinking for a long time, and finally could only come to this conclusion. At this moment, a skull with a large number of mechanical structures embedded on its surface slowly flew over and hovered next to the Supreme Sky. Master, Mrs. Octopus's male favorite, or Few, wants to see you. He says he has something important to discuss with you. Mrs. Octopus, she doesn't watch the game well, so what else is she trying to do? The 6 eyes of the Supreme Heaven rolled their eyes in unison, waved their big hands and said, "Let him in." After a while, Shower Few came to the Supreme Heaven. The blonde man bowed slightly, but there was not much respect on his face. He got straight to the point. Mrs. Bajao has taken a liking to Luli and asked His Excellency Supreme Heaven to make a price. A price? Supreme Sky was stunned for a moment, then said impatiently. Although Luli is a gladiator, he has not signed a contract of sale with the arena. I have no right to decide whether he will stay or leave, let alone give a price. Please Madame Ba Jiao give up on this idea. According to common sense, after hearing these words, Xiaofu should say goodbye and leave. But he remained unmoved. Instead, he said in an almost threatening tone, "No one can refuse Madame Ba Jiao's needs. Please ask Your Excellency Supreme Heaven to think of a way." The 6 eyes of the Supreme Sky stared, and he suddenly wanted to have a seizure. But when he thought of Mrs. Octopus's background, he had to suppress his anger and said in a stiff tone, "I am just the manager of the hub arena and I also act according to the rules. Even though Mrs. Octopus is the overlord of a star region, she can't compete with the rules, right?" Xiaofu nodded slightly. "That's true, but I must fulfill Madame Ba Jiao's request, and please ask His Excellency Supreme Heaven to think of a solution." Looking at the face of the man in front of him, Supreme Innocence really wanted to punch him into pieces. After thinking for a moment, the Supreme Heaven spoke. "Let me see if I can trick him into signing a contract of sale. If I succeed, Mrs. Octopus's request will naturally be met." Xiaofu is still unwilling to give up. What if it fails? Madame Ba Jiao must get Lu Li, and there cannot be any failure. The Supreme Heaven is also angry at this moment. It's impossible to fail. If Lu Li insists on not signing the contract of sale, I will arrange an opponent that he can't defeat. Sign the contract of betrayal or die in battle, any fool knows how to choose. After winning 50 games in a row, Lu Li's opponents were once again aggressive. Although they are all geniuses among newcomers, they are really not enough in Lu Li's eyes. Apart from the continuous consumption of physical energy, there is no feeling of threat. It wasn't until his 80th game that he felt the urgency of fighting again. As Dio's voice announcing the start of the game fell, a certain iron door of the arena opened again. But this time no figure came out. There was nothing behind the iron gate. What happened? There's no one in the arena. Why is there still an empty door? Is there a buy in the gladiatorial mode? Seeing that this newcomer can't hold on any longer, is this going to be a waste of time? Are you going to fight against match fixing? I am RNM. Refund the money. There was a commotion in the audience. Only a few experienced spectators know that there are no empty doors in the arena. The players who take the field are special. Lu Li, who was in the middle of the field, obviously understood this, as his muscles tensed up like a wolf getting ready to attack. Since something must have come out of the iron door, and his eyes couldn't see anything. That means a fact. The opponent who comes can become invisible. Searching past memories, Lu Li quickly came up with a guess. Apart from the latent spirits of the ethereal tribe, the only ones with the ability to become invisible are the lizard warriors of the Iron Jungle Star. If a latent spirit appears on the stage, the temperature in the arena will inevitably drop. If the latent spirit is powerful, it may turn into frost when breathing. But now, there's no chill inside the arena. So those who came should be lizard warriors. Just when he thought of this, Lu Li suddenly felt a murderous intention coming towards him. He subconsciously twisted his body and made a dodge movement at an extremely tricky angle. But most of the clothes wrapped around him were torn instantly. What happened? Why was Lu Li suddenly attacked? It's a player with the invisibility talent. That's it. No wonder you can't see anyone coming out of the iron gate. How can you fight if you can't see it? Why fight? This arena is clearly going to end this newcomer's winning streak. Lu Li's life is at stake. As Lu Li kept dodging, the exclamations from the audience came one after another. Many people began to worry about Lu Li, feeling that this rising star would inevitably fall in the end. After all, in the first 80 games, Lu Li had already demonstrated all the means he could. His melee combat is very strong. But faced with the invisibility talent that specifically restrains melee combat, can Lu Li continue to create miracles? I thought it would be easy to win 100 consecutive victories, but after all, we have sent a tough opponent. As Lu Li thought, a large amount of black mist began to spread around him. Soul Soldier. The blade-armed mantises quickly gathered together, covering most of the arena in an instant. The exclamations in the audience stopped abruptly. Everyone is stupid. After the previous 80 battles, they had already concluded that Lu Li was a melee genius with explosive three-dimensional attributes. His speed, strength, and physique are all far beyond those of ordinary players. Red mist gushed out from his body, and he was thought to be wearing some magical equipment. Being able to throw lightning bolts at will is also considered to be in possession of some mysterious item. But now, Lu Li didn't even say hello and just pulled out most of the summons in the arena. What's going on? It turns out that the extremely powerful, melee genius, in their eyes is actually a summoning genius. My dear mother, look at these summons, I can't even count them. Instant summoning, doesn't Lu Li need to go through the summoning ceremony? Hidden so deeply. It's a pity that the opponent has the invisibility talent. HMPH, that's right. No matter how many summons Lu Li has, it still won't help if he can't see his opponent. And the level of the summoned objects is low. If we really fight them, I'm afraid it won't have any effect. Although the audience was shocked, they still held a pessimistic view of Lu Li. Unless you have a diamond level perception talent, you can't catch invisible enemies at all. Lu Li naturally does not have such a high level perception system talent, but he still has his own way of catching his opponents. With Lu Li as the center, all the soul soldiers were arranged closely. Because the soul soldier itself has an entity, there will definitely be a vacancy in the queue after colliding with the invisible lizard warrior. Using this screening method, the two invisible lizard warriors can be quickly found. After a while, Lu Li found a gap in the array of soul soldiers. Got you. Chapter 39. Lu Li's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he raised his hand and shot several lightning arrows. Before hitting the target, the speed talent is fully activated. Lu Li's figure suddenly accelerated. Like an out-of-arms cannonball, it hit one of the openings hard. The invisible lizard warrior was so tired of dealing with the incoming lightning arrows that he didn't notice Lu Li, who was frantically killing him. When he came back to his senses, the sharp blade had already cut through his body. Ouch! The injured lizard warrior howled in pain. Just as he was about to launch a counterattack, he found that his movements were inexplicably sluggish. What's going on? The knife is poisonous. The lizard warrior glanced at the data panel and was shocked to find that a long list of debuffs had been followed by his name. Curse poison, corruption poison, tear, serious injury, continuous bleeding, wound corruption, weakness, armor destruction, chaos. Only then was he slashed. The lizard warrior was horrified and struggled back, trying to take out the potion from the space bag to purify the debuff. But how could Lu Li give him a chance? Turning around with a sudden stop, the blade arm used the momentum of a carbine to instantly pierce the lizard warrior's chest. When the other lizard warrior saw his companion being killed, he howled with grief and anger and wanted to rush over and fight Lu Li for his life. However, there were a large number of soul soldiers surrounding him, and even though their levels were very low, they still posed many obstacles to the lizard warriors. Lu Li didn't even launch a charge, he just used several lightning bolts to chop the lizard warrior into charcoal. The battle ends again. The audience was extremely quiet. After a long time, thunderous cheers broke out. Holy shit, Lu Li is awesome. Use a lot of junk summons to find and trap invisible opponents. Why didn't I think of this great way? The combat reflexes are very smooth. Lu Li is definitely a first-rate genius. Who else? I'll ask who else can defeat this newcomer. Stand still, I can even kill opponents with the invisibility talent. 100 consecutive victories are just around the corner. Where is that old man who said he wanted to make me rich? His heart is getting cold. There was also a lot of discussion in each box. In a simple and elegant box, an old man and a young man stood in front of the glass, looking down at the arena below. After hearing Dio announcing Lu Li's victory, the old man slowly spoke. Kuke, after watching him for so long, what do you think of this person? The boy, who looked to be only 11 or 12 years old, smacked his lips and said loudly. It's quite powerful, but my style of play is aggressive and my mind is not calm enough. Oh, why do you see it? The old man glanced at the young man, his tone still unhurried. With Lu Li's level, he could have played 80 games without any injuries, but he kept getting injured for the sake of efficiency. Using one's body as bait is a strategy, which is true, but in 100 battles, it is too risky. Once there is an opponent who cannot compete, your life will be completely decided. The young man's speeches are reasonable and every sentence is exquisite. But the old man did not show a happy smile on his face. Instead, He shook his head in disappointment. He did not directly point out the errors and omissions in the young man's evaluation, but instead asked another question. If you go up and fight him, what do you think your chances of winning are? When the young man heard this, he seemed to have been greatly insulted, and his immature face turned a little red. If I go up and fight him, not to mention the 100% chance of winning, but the 99% chance that he is no match for me. Level differences aside, I'd beat him 3 ways in terms of talent alone. Grandpa, are you too stupid to ask such a question? Faced with the young man's dissatisfaction, the old man didn't have any anger on his face. Instead, he laughed and said, young men are strong-willed and unruly. It's a good thing to be confident, but you shouldn't be arrogant. The young man retorted, our Chen family cultivates the crazy sword, and the talent awakened from generation to generation is also the rage that matches the sword. It is normal to be confident and arrogant. Grandpa, you are timid, that's why you can't make any progress in terms of strength. The smile on the old man's face faded, but there was still no anger in his eyes. He made a suggestion that surprised the young man. If you really think so, why not go out and compete with Lu Li later? Will you fight with him next time? A trace of undetectable fear flashed in the young man's eyes, which was quickly replaced by contempt. Isn't that bullying? Besides, the arena management will not allow the level gap between gladiators to be too large. In order to ensure the fairness of the gladiatorial battle, the hub arena has a hidden rule. In other words, the level difference between the two parties in the arena cannot exceed 10 levels. Young Chen Kai is already at level 30, which is 15 levels different from Lu Li, far exceeding the playing limit. The old man pretended to be enlightened, patted his head and laughed. I almost forgot that there is this restriction, so to ensure fairness, let's send a sword slave. In another luxuriously decorated box, Showerfew withdrew his gaze from the arena and said with some worry. Madam, why don't you go to the slave family again? I'm afraid the Supreme Heaven has underestimated Lu Li's strength. If this continues. Madame Ba Jiao raised her hand and said softly. Don't worry, there are still 20 games. This opponent is just a test. Lu Li is very strong, but his cards have been played out. If I'm not wrong, the Supreme Heaven will soon send someone to sign a contract of sale with him. As expected, before Mrs. Octopus could finish her words, Dio, who had been at the edge of the arena, suddenly ran towards Lu Li. It looked like he had received some instructions. Lu Li was a little surprised when he saw the robot referee running towards him, and immediately stopped searching for the bodies. Lu Li, you're in luck. Someone is interested in you and wants to buy you. Buy me, but I don't belong in the arena. Lu Li frowned, not understanding what Dio meant for a moment. If I remember correctly, it seems that I did not sign a contract of sale with the arena. Since he is a free agent, how can he be bought and sold? Seeing Lu Li's confusion, Dio immediately explained. Of course you don't belong in the arena now. I'm here just to make you sign a contract of betrayal. Sign the contract, and in the next 20 matches, you will be given weak opponents to help you easily achieve 100 consecutive victories. If you don't sign, the arena will arrange an unbeatable opponent for you, and you will die. Even I can't change this. After saying that, Dio shrugged helplessly. Although he liked Lu Li very much, he also hoped that he could successfully win 100 gladiatorial games. But now the Supreme Heaven has intervened. No matter how powerful he is, Dio is still just a referee. Beating a hardworking worker won't change anything. When Lu Li heard this, his expression suddenly turned cold. He hates being threatened. Moreover, when he relives his life, he wants stability, but he will never grovel. Don't think about selling yourself and let the game continue. You really don't want to sign a contract of betrayal. Dio couldn't bear to see a genius fall and continued to persuade. Actually, it's not a bad thing to be bought by someone. The person who likes you is the overlord of a star field. By signing the contract of sale, you can get resources that you will never get in your life. In this world, strength is the most respected. Isn't it better to be a slave of a strong man than to die as a free citizen? After searching for the loot, Lu Li remained unmoved. Seeing that Dio was still trying to persuade him, he simply sat cross-legged on the ground and rested. Now that he knew that the next 20 games were full of dangers, he had to seize every minute to regain his strength. Seeing that Dio couldn't persuade Lu Li, he could only lament in the end. That's all. I admire your backbone and accept your 700 kilograms of fine gold. I will burn paper for you during New Year's and holidays. The fight begins again. Everything was as Dio said, and the strength of the defender who appeared on the stage suddenly increased a lot. In terms of level alone, none of them are below LV 20. And Lu Li no longer hid his strength and used the abilities he plundered one by one. 18 fierce battles, 1 against 2 in every game. It took a full 5 hours. Lu Li's energy was almost drained out of him. Dio looked at Lu Li, who was getting angry in the middle of the field, and walked towards the other end of the arena. From the beginning of the game to now, Alyssa has been hiding in the corner, minimizing her presence as much as possible. Seeing Dio walking towards her, the poor Parlu girl trembled. Don't be afraid, I won't do anything to you. Dio sighed and said seriously. Look, Lu Li lasted for 98 games, and his physical strength has reached its limit. There are still 2 final games. The Supreme Heaven will definitely not let Lu Li leave alive. It's better to die than to live. Go and persuade Lu Li and let him sign the deed of betrayal. Alyssa was a little confused and mumbled. How could I possibly persuade him? He didn't even ask me for my opinion when he said he wanted to fight 100 times at first. Dio scratched his iron skull. The truth seems to be exactly what Alyssa said. Quote, A dead horse should be treated as a living horse, doctor. Otherwise, if Lu Li dies in the next 2 games, you will definitely not survive either. Alyssa shrank her neck, like a duck being roasted on the fire. She quickly moved to Lu Li's side and cautiously poked him on the shoulder. However, before she could persuade her, Lu Li asked a question. Alyssa, right, what is your natural ability? Alyssa was stunned and subconsciously replied. My innate ability is Goddess of Luck's favor, diamond level. When Lu Li heard this, he immediately turned his head and stared in disbelief at this Palu man who had paddled for 98 games. Diamond level, talent. Alyssa's face froze, as if she thought of something bad, and waved her hands repeatedly. My talent is actually useless at all. I don't know why it is diamond level. Don't be angry. Seeing the change in Lu Li's expression, Alyssa thought that he was blaming her for hiding it, and became even more flustered. She did feel like her talents were useless. Even though it's called the blessing of the Goddess of Luck, it still won't bring her luck after using her ability. On the contrary, there are more misfortunes. That's why Alyssa was extremely desperate when she entered the hub arena. But Lu Li didn't think so. Because after resurrecting his life, he understands that Goddess of Luck's favor can definitely be called a god-level talent. Like Xu Xiao's amplifying ability, the blessing of the Goddess of Luck can increase the luck of players within range. The talent owner himself cannot be affected by this ability. That's why Alyssa feels that her natural abilities are useless. In just a moment, Lu Li had several new plans in his mind. When the 99th battle begins, you can use your abilities without interrupting. Lu Li got up from the ground and told Alyssa. Okay. Alyssa nodded in confusion, completely forgetting her original purpose of coming here. It wasn't until the iron door of the defender opened again that she trembled and remembered that she was here to persuade Lu Li to sign a contract of renunciation. Land from. Alyssa wanted to shout, but Lu Li couldn't hear her. Because the cheers from the audience were so loud that they completely overwhelmed her voice. Oh my god, it's actually the sword slave of the Chen family. Did my eyes see it correctly? Hey, the arena really spent a lot of money this time. This is a joke. The Chen family's sword slaves have come out. Why don't we just judge Lu Li as the loser? Isn't it a foul to hit the sword slave? I remember that there is a level difference limit in the gladiatorial mode. What a foul, the arena must have blocked the sword slave's level. I just don't know which Chen family child this sword slave is replicating. Hey, I saw the word, knock, written on his face. Could it be Chen Knock, the most powerful genius of the Chen family in recent years? The sword slave is already difficult enough to deal with, and he even copied Chen Ko's tactics. It seems that Lu Li is destined to stop at 99 wins. I don't think so. I think there is only one sword slave, but there are 2 on Lu Li's side. We might not be able to win. Ha, brother, are you just here? Let's put it this way, in the previous 98 gladiatorial battles, the Palu man has not touched anything, it is just a decoration. In the Chen family box. The young man Chen Ke heard the exclamations coming from outside and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. The level of the sword slave who plays this time is limited to level 25. According to Chen Ke's original intention, a sword slave level of 15 is enough. After all, it was his fighting skills that were copied. As a genius, Chen Ke naturally had the arrogance of a genius. He felt that the level 15 sword slave was more than enough to kill Lu Li. However, his grandfather wanted to sell himself to Supreme Heaven to save face, so he finally raised the level of the sword slave to level 25. This is simply a massacre. Chen Ke said scornfully, but it's okay. If Lu Li is killed in this scene, the little secret of Supreme Heaven will not be exposed so early. The old man glanced at his grandson and didn't say anything. He just smiled and stared at the field below. Lu Li looked at the figure walking not far away and narrowed his eyes slightly. He really didn't expect to face the sword slaves of the crazy sword Chen family, and what's more, they were replicating the tactics of the hidden wrath sword Chen Ko. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have the strength to fight. As Lu Li thought, black mist surged around him. Soul Guard. Xing Anlin and Chen Hao stepped out of the black fog and immediately ran towards both sides of the arena without saying anything. Lu Li himself condensed his sword arm and activated the second stage ability of Bloody Massacre. Slaughter. In an instant, all the red mist around Lu Li entered his body, and all negative effects were removed. Extreme Healing activates. The body that had entered a near-death state gradually recovered, and wounds of all sizes healed quickly. Chen family sword slave, come and fight. The sword slave with no facial features tilted his head slightly, flipped the long knife in his palm, and immediately rushed towards Lu Li. The Chen family's crazy sword is famous for its madness. The sword technique was as sharp as a torrential downpour in midsummer, hitting Lu Li head and face. The chaotic offensive carries a huge sense of oppression. If it were an ordinary person, his breathing would have been stagnant at this moment, and he would be standing still, unable to move. But Lu Li is not an ordinary person. Facing this overwhelming attack, not only did he show no fear, but there was a burning fighting spirit in his eyes. In his last life, he accidentally obtained a broken sword manual, which recorded some basic knowledge of sword techniques. Lu Li found it useful and learned it. Only later did he learn that the broken sword manual was actually the basic technique of the Chen family's crazy sword. Because Chen Jiajing lacks this part of the basic skills, the crazy sword he practices always feels like a floating duckweed without roots. It cannot be perfected. Later, he accidentally learned that Lu Li had a broken copy of the sword manual in his hand, and planned to trap it and seize it. The Chen family is also on Lu Li's revenge list. Although the sword skills in the sword manual only included the first 3 levels, it still laid a good foundation for Lu Li. And also formed 3 knife skills in the data panel. Although Lu Li failed to bring the 3 sword skills to his new life, he would never forget the first 3 sword skills in his mind. Now it comes in handy to fight against the Chen family's sword slaves. Although the fighting method reproduced by the sword slave is also the Chen family's crazy sword, the basic technique is not the genuine, but a pirated version that has been improved and explored for generations by the Chen family. It's usable, but not as powerful as Lu Li. Even with the later levels of genuine sword skills as compensation, he could still only be on par with Lu Li. If it weren't for a full 10 levels of level suppression, plus the gap in attributes. The knife slave is probably already dead at this moment. Seeing the back and forth of the battle below, Chen Ke in the Chen family box could no longer laugh. You must know that what the sword slave copied was his fighting method. What does it mean to be unable to kill Lu Li? This means that he, a swordsman genius who is rare in the Chen family for a century, is not as good as a fledgling newcomer. Grandpa, let the sword slave use his talent. When the old man named Chen Ru heard this, he frowned and shook his head. Don't worry, it's not yet time. Not before the time. Chen Ke turned his head, his eyes full of stubbornness. Grandpa, what are you waiting for? Chen Yan looked solemn and did not answer immediately. In fact, according to the original plan, Chen Yan wanted to use the duel between Dao Nu and Lu Li to dampen Chen Ke's arrogance. Once the goal is achieved, he will ask the sword slave to immediately use the rage talent to end the battle. But now, things have changed. Because Chen Yan actually saw the essence of the Chen family's crazy sword from Lu Li's sword skills. If you can watch Lu Li perform a full set of sword skills, you can try to figure it out. Chen Li felt that he might be able to completely make up for the missing first 3 levels of Chen's sword skills. The goal of filing away the young man's arrogance has been achieved, so Chen Ruo's tone became much more tactful. Don't be in a hurry to end it. The Hub Arena is a display platform, allowing all major star regions to see the strength of the Chen family, which will be good for the future of the Chen family. Chen Ke gritted his teeth. But the level 25 sword slave and a level 15 newcomer ended in a draw. Does Grandpa really think that this will make other star regions think highly of our Chen family? Chen Ru disagreed and chuckled. Isn't it true that he hasn't used his talent yet? Lu Li has used all his cards and won't be able to jump around for too long. As if to confirm what Chen Yan said, Lu Li's movements suddenly slowed down a lot. It seems like my energy is exhausted. The sword slave immediately seized the opportunity and slashed his sword down diagonally, going straight for Lu Li's neck. However, at this critical moment, Lu Li's figure suddenly blurred. PFF'd. The sword slave's attack failed, but Lu Li was unscathed. What happened? The audience around the venue exclaimed at the same time, while Chen Yan's pupils shrank sharply. I saw the sword slave's attack falling on a figure covered in pitch black. And Lu Li himself appeared inexplicably behind Dao Slave. Instantly changed positions. Xing Anlin had a grimace on his face, crossed his arms, and clamped down on the sword slave in front of him. Boss, can you give someone else the beating next time? Don't ask me to do it all the time. Okay, next time it's Chen Hao. Lu Li responded perfunctorily, and at the same time raised his right arm high, preparing to deliver a fatal blow to the sword slave. Seeing that he was about to succeed, Dao Slave suddenly burst out with a fierce momentum. Lu Li was shaken back by the sudden impact, and even Xing Anlin, who was restraining the sword slave, was killed with a single blow. It is the unique talent of the Chen family, Rage. Haha, the talent was activated in time, but it's time to end. Lu Li sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, Dao Slave was hugged tightly by Chen Hao, who suddenly rushed towards him. Although Chen Hao was quickly killed by the sword slave, this moment of restriction also gave Lu Li plenty of opportunities. The killing move is done. Lu Li's speed suddenly exploded, more than twice as fast as during the previous fight. The blade swept across and took the sword slave's head directly. The latter raised his sword to block, but unexpectedly the weapon was cut off. He was chopped off together with his head without facial features. In the box, Chen Ke was stunned. He never expected that Lu Li would win. Although Chen Li expected Lu Li to be powerful, he was shocked when he saw Dao Nu's head fall to the ground. This is a level 25 sword slave. He reproduced the fighting skills of the swordsman genius Chen Ke and unlocked his talents. Actually lost. And he didn't die from a sneak attack, but from a frontal kill. Although there were 2 weird summons distracting the sword slave for Lu Li, the final fatal blow was a real sword-to-knife fight. A layman might not be able to see how powerful it is, but how could Chen Yan not understand it? Lu Li's sword skills can absolutely crush the sword slave. He has been hiding his clumsiness. Grandfather. Chen Ke shouted in a low voice, his godless eyes slowly looking towards Chen Li. Lu Li, how did he do it? He actually killed the sword slave. Is he stronger than me? When Chen Ru saw this, his heart ached. The blow was too much. According to Chen Li's original script, Lu Li should have fought hard with the sword slave, and finally died after being defeated. This would not only dampen Chen Ke's arrogance, but also prevent him from doubting his own strength. But a situation like this is obviously not what Chen Yan wants to see. Lu Li directly killed the level 25 sword slave, which was equivalent to a slap in the face to Chen Ko. Then tell him, you are only a genius in swordsmanship. You are 10 levels ahead. Why don't you still get killed by me? My self-confidence is completely shattered. Ka, don't think so. There must be something weird about Lu Li being able to kill the sword slave. Let's continue reading. Is there anything weird? Chen Ke was stunned and said with a wry smile. What could be weird? He was facing a knife, and even the weapon was cut off. Chen Ru frowned and said in a thicker voice. Kukae, keep watching, the fight isn't over yet. If Lu Li can really win 100 games, it means that he is indeed a rare genius. It's not surprising that Tao slave will lose. But if he can't win, there's no need for you to mess with your Taoism over a dead man. The reason why he comforted Chen Kai in this way was mainly because Chen Ru knew the inside story. He knew that Supreme Heaven, who was trying every possible means to kill Lu Li, would definitely send that thing out to end this fight. Ask him one last time whether he will sign the deed of sale or not. The voice of the Supreme Heaven echoed in Dior's ears. The referee robot dug its ears and let out an electronic sigh. How could he sign? But complaints are complaints, and workers still have to do what they need to do. Dio walked closer to Lu Li with small steps and repeated the question from the Supreme Sky in a helpless tone. Lu Li also gave the answer Dior expected. Don't sign. Just when Dio was about to report the matter to the Supreme Heaven and announce the start of the final battle, Lu Li made another request. At the cost of a ton of fine gold, he asked Dio to delay him for 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, the final battle will begin. Do you want to take this opportunity to recover your strength? Dio guessed in his mind. With the bribe of a ton of fine gold, he acquiesced to Lu Li's request. Although Dio had already determined that Lu Li would die in the 100th battle, the promised ton of fine gold could not fall into his hands. But this did not hinder Dior's decision, because he was also curious about what preparations Lu Li was going to make to deal with the next fatal situation. However, in order not to arouse the suspicion of the Supreme Heaven, Dio deliberately followed Lu Li and pretended to be persuading him. However, as he followed, Dio felt something was wrong. Lu Li didn't seem to be resting, but using his talents. The corpses scattered in the arena quickly shrank and condensed under Lu Li's touch, turning into crystal clear crystals. Not only are there orange third-order elemental crystals, there are even yellow and green fourth and fifth-order elemental crystals. The last batch of corpses of defenders whose levels were higher than LV-20 even condensed green 6th-order elemental crystals. No wonder Lu Li asked him not to clean up the corpses in the arena before going on stage. It turns out that these corpses can also be condensed into Yuanjing. But what's the use? Upgrade before the last game. But Lu Li has obviously reached the upper limit of absorbing Yuanjing, and he will have to wait at least 3 days before the next absorption. What does he want to do with collecting so many high-level crystals? Under Dio's puzzled gaze, Lu Li piled the Yuanjing in front of him, sat cross-legged, and picked up each one with his right hand to absorb it. As the colorful crystals quickly turned gray and shattered, Dio's jaw almost dropped to the ground in shock. He felt that his central processing unit was running out of power. What the hell is going on? Lu Li could actually break the restrictions and forcibly absorb Yuanjing. No, after absorbing so many multi-crystals, why hasn't Lu Li's level changed at all? Is it some kind of overdraft talent? This kid actually has multiple talents. The overdraft talent allows players to temporarily ignore the absorption limit of Yuanjing, at the cost of being unable to gain level improvement. However, as long as the experience value exceeds the level limit, free attribute points can still be obtained. But what's the use? You must know that there are rules and restrictions in the arena. After the competition starts, the player's data panel will be temporarily locked, and players cannot use the panel to add 4-dimensional attribute points. Even if he obtained free attribute points, Lu Li's strength could not be improved at all. What does he want to do? By now, Dio has completely forgotten his identity as a referee. He just wanted to know quickly what Lu Li was going to do next. After absorbing all the essence crystals, Lu Li took something out of his pocket and quickly threw it into his mouth. Then, under Dio's shocked gaze, he opened the data panel and started adding points. I really didn't expect that Huang Bin's useless talent could help me at a critical moment. After absorbing so many multi-crystals, he actually brought me 10 free attribute points. Secretly lamenting his fate, Lu Li added all his free attribute points to luck. At this moment, his basic luck value has reached 25.8. Coupled with Alyssa's Goddess of Luck's favor, the total luck value has increased to an astonishing 85.8. The game can begin. Stretching out with satisfaction, Lu Li got up from the ground and spoke. Why can you break the rules? Dior is like a rusty machine, with the sound of parts jamming all over the body. This is how he behaves when he is extremely shocked. Lu Li was afraid that the referee would shut down because he couldn't figure it out, so he quickly urged. Let's start quickly. Ah, okay. Dio nodded in confusion and reported to the Supreme Heaven the reply that Luli refused to sign the deed of betrayal. Useless trash, can't even do this little thing. Since Luli is so ignorant, let him die. The final battle begins. This time, the iron door of the corridor didn't even have time to open before it was roasted to death by the hot temperature. When the defender finally entered the arena, there was dead silence in the entire audience. After a long time, someone finally said with a trembling voice. The monster down here, could it be a three-headed hell dog? It's really a three-headed hellhound. And it's still an adult. Why is there such a thing in the hub arena? Are the managers crazy? The demonic energy in this thing can greatly reduce most of the talents. No matter how strong Luli is, most of his strength will be suppressed. How can we fight like this? Haha, I knew the arena would never allow a newcomer to win 100 consecutive games. It was a good idea to bet with me, but now you regret it. It's not a question of winning or not now. Even the three-headed hell dog can be released in the arena. What kind of talent does this manager have? You don't care what its composition is. The arena itself is absolutely neutral and is restricted by rules. Even if the manager is a spy of the devil, it will not have any impact on us. That's right, but isn't Luli dead? Well, I can only blame him for his bad luck. Amidst the sighs, the final battle began. Looking at the Cerberus in the distance that was as big as a small mountain, Luli's heart sank to the bottom. He didn't expect that the arena manager would send a demon in order to stop 100 consecutive wins. Although he is only a low-level demon. But for Luli now, it was very difficult. Because he has not yet plundered the talent of the sacred system. The three-headed hell dog's talent spell-breaking domain can make all talents with a level lower than it lose their effect. Only the sacred system talent can crack it. In other words, if Luli now wants to fight the three-headed hell dog, he can only use props. However, Luli had only used blade arms so far and did not have any handy weapons. Wait, weapons? Luli was stunned for a moment and then remembered that he still had a treasure chest that he had yet to collect. Just 3 days ago, when the apocalypse had just arrived, he killed a female mantis, becoming the first player in the world to kill a Lord-level creature. However, in order to keep a low profile, Luli did not make an announcement immediately, but chose to put the reward on hold. Then as soon as things happened, he forgot about it. Luli thought about it and immediately chose global announcement. A colorful treasure box appeared out of thin air and landed in front of Luli. At the same time, the three-headed hell dog also launched an attack. Luli made a quick decision, picked up the treasure box and ran away. This move made the audience stunned again. In the previous 99 fights, Luli never retreated. Therefore, the audience has the impression that he is a ruthless person who is decided in killing, deadly with every move, and just do it and it's over. Now Luli was running wildly, which really had a big impact on the audience's nerves. Many viewers who supported Luli shook their heads and sighed. Oh, it seems that Luli also knew how powerful the three-headed dog was, and he ran away in fear. I originally thought he would die in battle with courage, but I didn't expect him to be a coward. Anyone else would be scared to face the three-headed dog of hell, let alone a newcomer like Luli. Oops, I can't watch anymore. The more upbeat audience even cheered for Luli. Hurry up and chase. Oh no, he can slip away. Why is the three-headed dog so stupid? Don't you know how to attack the Paluman first? What's growing on the three necks is probably not a head, but a tumor. Ha ha ha, I never expected that the last battle would turn out to be a dog chasing a mouse. It's really ridiculous. I don't think there's any point in running away. I can just lie down on the ground and die. Luli naturally ignored the noise outside the venue. At this moment, he had already opened the treasure box and took out the props inside. Item name, Bugtooth Dagger. Quality, inferior quality can be upgraded. Function description, absorb target attributes and permanently reproduce them. The absorption process is not considered an attack. Note, no matter what, please be sure to feed her. The dagger is all green and has a strange shape, like a dormant mantis. Not long after being held by Luli, the dagger began to twist quickly, and fine insect teeth sprouted from the handle. Luli was not even prepared when his right hand was bitten hard by the dagger. For a moment, Unimaginable severe pain hit his nerves, almost causing Luli to faint from the pain. Luli took a breath and tried to stay awake. It was clear that the current situation was bad, but he smiled happily. Not for anything else, just because Luli had seen this dagger in his previous life. One of the few growth props that can evolve itself. Luli still clearly remembered that the holder of the worm-tooth dagger in his previous life was a female player named Li Luo. Because of this dagger, she assassinated countless powerful men and firmly established herself as the #1 assassin. Unexpectedly, in this life, Luli would be opened from the first kill treasure chest. That's almost it. I'll let you suck it all after the beating. As if he could hear Luli's thoughts, the insect teeth biting his palm slowly loosened and turned into a dagger again. In the item quality column, it was successfully upgraded from inferior quality to ordinary. Luli finally stopped running away and faced the three-headed hell dog, getting into a fighting stance. Upon seeing this, the audience's boos subsided by half and turned into mockery. Hey, I'll go, Luli won't run away. This is going to be a fight. Who has a better look? Look at the weapon he is holding in his hand. A dagger, ha 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 ha, is Luli planning to kill a three-headed hell dog with a dagger? This little dagger is just as good as picking the teeth of a three-headed hell dog. Alyssa, who had always been on the edge of obscurity, saw Luli fighting with a dagger, and the little flame of hope that had just risen in her heart was extinguished in a flash. Might as well keep running. What's the difference between this and delivering food to Cerberus? Anyway, Luli has allowed me to live for so long. Now he is in a difficult situation. I should help him. If I must die, let the hellhound eat me first. After eating enough, maybe Luli can survive. With her mind made up, Alyssa timidly opened her mouth, preparing to shout to attract the Cerberus's attention. However, before she could speak, the man had already rushed forward. Without the blessing of innate abilities, Luli's movement speed was not very fast. But relying on the practical experience accumulated in the previous life and the understanding of the three-headed hell dog. In the first few rounds of fighting, Luli did not lose. However, due to Changya's pitiful attack distance, he had to stay very close to the three-headed hell dog. After several confrontations, the flames burning on the monster's body had burned Luli's clothes to tatters. Luli felt that the ragged clothes were hindering his movement, so he simply tore them off. Little did he know that his little move made someone in a certain box feel very confused. A work of art. This is definitely a work of art. I really want to pin Luli down and ravage him immediately. Mrs. Octopus' whole big face was completely pressed against the glass. Glitter saliva flowed from the corners of his mouth, dripping onto the floor of the box. But madam, Luli doesn't know what is good or bad. Little or Few lay on the ground, his face full of jealousy. What do you know? He has such a personality. The more I watch, the more I like him. Madame Ba Jiao scolded her, not taking her eyes away from Luli for a moment. Okay. But the Supreme Heaven has released the Hellhounds. There is no way Luli can survive. How about the new family contact the puppet master in the Void Star territory and wait until the game is over to make Luli's corpse into a puppet? Mrs. Octopus was stunned for a moment, and regret quickly appeared on her face, which was full of fat and wrinkles. That's all we can do. I really hope he can win the game. Inside the arena, because Wormtooth initially absorbed Luli's blood, the blade had all the characteristics of the blade arm, including a series of effects such as cursed poison, tear, weakness, etc. However, due to the special physique of the three-headed hell dog, and the attack range of the insect tooth dagger is too small. Several attacks only caused some skin injuries and did not cause serious injuries. On the contrary, Luli's physical fitness dropped drastically in order to avoid the attack. The dodge was just a little slow, and Cerberus seized the opportunity. The dog's head in the middle instantly bit Luli's weapon, making it difficult for him to pull it out. The two dog heads on the left and right slowly opened their bloody mouths towards Luli's head. I'm about to bite it. Suddenly, a small piece of stone flew over and hit one of the dog heads in the eye very accurately. Smelly dog, come at me, Alyssa shouted loudly, her thin body trembling. I thought that the hell dog would let go of Luli and attack the Palu girl instead. Unexpectedly, this beast just twisted his body and pointed his butt at Alyssa. The girl was horrified to discover that the Cerberus's tail was actually a python as thick as a thigh. In just a moment of confusion, the big snake had already entangled Alyssa. She spat out, and her fishy breath made her feel suffocated. There's no way to break free. Alyssa closed her eyes in despair. However, after waiting for a long time, the expected death did not come. Instead, there was a roar as the giant fell to the ground. Alyssa slowly opened her eyes and saw the most unforgettable scene in her life. Lu Li, who had most of his body stained with blood, was holding the python 7 inches tightly with one arm. Seeing Alyssa open her eyes, he roared, "I can't hold it anymore, come here and help. Help, help." Alyssa looked confused. What's the situation? Wasn't Lu Li bitten by the hell dog just now and unable to move? Why did he break free in the blink of an eye to deal with Snake Tail? When did those 3 dog heads become so easy to talk to? Alyssa turned her head blankly and saw the broken dog head not far away. Oh, it turns out that the 3 dog heads have been hung up. It looked like he was hit with a punch. Why are you so stunned? Hurry up. Lu Li's shout came again, pulling Alyssa out of her wild thoughts. I'm sorry. I'll help right away. Alyssa responded quickly and struggled to break free. Because the snakehead was controlled, the girl quickly broke free from the restraints. Under Lu Li's instructions, she found the bugtooth dagger from the mouth of one of the dogs. After clumsily finishing the attack several times, he finally killed the python. 1. Alyssa collapsed on the ground, looking at the huge corpse in front of her in disbelief. The cheers in my ears were deafening, like a dream. Really 1. The man named Lu Li led her to win 100 gladiatorial games. Dior took small steps of excitement and announced the result of the competition in an extremely loud voice. Congratulations to Lu Li and Alyssa Bucky for winning 100 gladiatorial games. At the end of the game, all spectators are asked to exit the venue in an orderly manner to the hub hall and enjoy free drinks, pastries and food. 2 gladiators, please follow me to the lounge to take a rest. There are still talent recruitment and contract negotiations later. If you are interested, you can. Dio was mid-sentence when he suddenly noticed that there was someone missing in the arena. Lu Li disappeared. After searching around, I found that he was squatting next to the body of the Cerberus, working on something. Land from. Dio did not step forward immediately, but after shouting, he waited in place in a measured manner. Lu Li has too many secrets. Dio knew very well that if he wanted to make friends with this kind of person, he must put away his curiosity. After Lu Li finished what he was doing, he continued to ask. Lu Li, would you like to participate in the subsequent talent recruitment and signing negotiations? Lu Li casually inserted the insect teeth into his waist and said absently. Oh, let's go take a look later. By the way, the body of this Cerberus shouldn't be recycled in the arena, right? Dio was stunned and immediately understood. Theoretically, it should be recovered, but if the body is damaged during the game, I, the referee, will have no choice but not to deal with it. Lu Lizin understood and raised his hand to activate corpse condensation. The corpse quickly shrank and turned into 2 green 6th order Yuanjing. Dio pretended not to see it, and after Lu Li put the Yuanjing away, he said hesitantly. The 1 ton of fine gold you promised before. Lu Li thought Dio was in a hurry to ask for it, and frowned slightly. I'll pay you within 3 days. No, that's not what I meant. Dio waved his hands repeatedly. The expression on the machine's face was extremely friendly. I mean, you don't have to pay me the 1 ton of fine gold. What? Lu Li was a little surprised. Dio smiled and explained. Because I bet the 700 kilograms of fine gold you gave me to give you 100 consecutive wins. Now that you win, the arena will pay me 350,000 tons of fine gold. Lu Li raised his eyebrows. It's really a huge profit. Dio nodded. That's right. In order to thank you for making me such a huge sum of money, I decided to share 200,000 tons of fine gold with you. Facing this sudden gift, Lu Li was a little unexpected. He was secretly vigilant. This is a bet you placed and it has nothing to do with me. Why should I take your gold for nothing? Dior's tone was extremely sincere. Just think of it as my goodwill. After all, without your victory, I might even have to lose my 700 kilograms of capital. Lu Li thought about it and felt that the other party was sincere, so he did not refuse. The three of them left the arena and entered the lounge. Before Lu Li and Alyssa could sit down and rest, there was a noise outside the lounge. The service robot responsible for guidance and reception was broken into 2 pieces, and the door of the lounge opened with a bang. Lu Li was instantly alert, and his right hand calmly pressed on the tooth on his waist. How dare you, you're trash, whose IQ is not much higher than that of a microwave oven, stop me. Get away. After a period of yelling and cursing, 2 handsome-looking, naked-chested men appeared at the door of the lounge. They worked together to carry a roll of red carpet and rolled it all the way into the lounge. After doing all this, the 2 of them stepped aside and knelt down respectfully. Not long after, a luxuriously dressed woman appeared at the door of the lounge. She was very tall and very fat. While walking, there were sticky and slippery slapping sounds coming from under the skirt. Seeing Lu Li, a scary smile appeared on the woman's ugly face. Without saying anything, the woman handed a pure gold business card to Lu Li. First meeting, Lu Li, I am Mrs. Ba Jiao. Lu Li's eyes remained alert and he stared at the business card in front of him without making any move. The hub arena is a mixed bag, but the dragon is definitely a real dragon. Lu Li didn't recognize Mrs. Octopus in front of him. But looking at the other party's appearance, he is not a little-known little character. Therefore, before you understand the other party's intention, you can only treat it with caution. Seeing that Lu Li remained silent, Mrs. Ba Jiao narrowed her grin slightly. She pushed the business card into Lu Li's arms again and explained. Don't worry, I mean no harm. Although at the beginning, I did want to buy your body, but now, you have proved me wrong with your strength. So please give me a chance to apologize to you. If you encounter any difficulties, you can contact me at any time through this business card. Dio on the side stretched his neck and whispered in Lu Li's ear. She is the overlord of the Neptune domain, accept her now. Neptune realm. Lu Li was stunned, and relevant information immediately appeared in his mind. This star field is guarded by a huge magic eye named Padtik. In the last life, the demonic tide broke out in the world, and the Neptune region was the first to bear the brunt and was corrupted and destroyed by the demonic tide. The 8-clawed madam in front of her must have died in the demonic tide at that time, so she was not known to Lu Li. After all, in his last life, it was already the 3rd year after Lu Li entered the hub arena for the first time after the end of the world. If you can enter the Padtik magic eye before the demonic tide breaks out, you may be able to obtain that item more easily. The item that can take soul swallowing to a higher level. Thinking of this, Lu Li stopped being polite and reached out to take Madame Ba Jiao's business card. Seeing Lu Li accept the business card, Madame Ba Jiao said nothing more. He just left a meaningful, looking forward to meeting you next time, and then left the lounge with his male favorites. Dior looked at the golden business card in Lu Li's hand with envy, and said quietly. It's really enviable. Lu Li was puzzled. It's just a business card. There's nothing to envy. Dior immediately explained. With this business card, not only can you freely enter and leave the Neptune star territory, but all residents in the star territory will treat you as the most distinguished guest. This is the approval of the rich woman. Listening to the first 2 sentences of Dio, Lu Li didn't feel anything was wrong, but as soon as the second half came out, he immediately shuddered. What's the situation? Did that fat octopus mother just take a fancy to me? Hiss. The key is that the opponent is still a star domain overlord. So scary. If one day I can't wait any longer, I have to force myself. Hiss. Thinking of this, Lu Li made a firm decision. You must improve your strength as quickly as possible. Don't let that bad situation happen. After a short rest, Dio took Lu Li and Alyssa to the hub hall. As soon as he entered, many people sent invitations and contract negotiations to Lu Li. Although he is just a newcomer to the hub. But in the name of 100 consecutive victories, most forces are unwilling to let go of this potential seed. However, Lu Li did not accept solicitation from any force. He was waiting for the members of the Crazy Blade Chen family to show up. Lu Li's deliberate sword skills when fighting the sword slave were obvious enough. As long as anyone in the Chen family is not blind, they will definitely be able to see the clues. And he just wanted to use this as a stepping stone to knock on the door of the Chen family. As expected, after Lu Li rejected the solicitation of the 23rd Force, a black and gold uniform appeared in his field of vision. Chen Rui put his hands behind his back and walked towards Lu Li slowly. Hello, little friend, I, Chen Zhu, have temporarily assumed the position of third elder of the Crazy Blade Chen family. My little friend is so talented in the arena, he is truly a genius. It's just that my sword skills are a bit raw. If I can polish them, my achievements in the future will be limitless. I dare not say anything else about the Chen family, but their research on knives is definitely one of the best. If you are interested, little friend, why not chat with me? Chen Rui was worthy of being a man who had lived a long life. In just a few words, he pulled Lu Li down from the position of being sought after by everyone. You are very strong, but your sword skills are not very good. If you want to improve your sword skills and continue to become stronger, only the Chen family can help you. If Lu Li is really a fledgling boy, he has probably fallen into Chen Rui's trap by now. But he's not. Haha, you said my swordsmanship is not good, why don't you just poo me here? If my swordsmanship is really bad, how can I leapfrog and kill your Chen family swordsman? Lu Li sneered in his heart, but on the surface he pretended to be excited about meeting an old friend in a foreign land. As expected of an old-timer, he can see the boy's limitations at a glance. To be honest, I got a sword manual by chance a few days ago, and I learned this sword technique from it. It's a pity that the sword manual is broken, only the first 3 levels. When Chen Rui heard this, his eyes flashed, and he immediately stroked his beard and chuckled. It doesn't matter, as long as the child is willing to join the Chen family is willing to complete the sword repertoire for the child. Chen Yan originally thought that the plan could be easily accomplished, but unexpectedly Lu Li looked embarrassed and said, "The sword manual is gone." Gone, Chen Rui almost screamed. Fortunately, he was very good at cultivating qi and regained his composure immediately. Why is it gone? Lu Li looked sad and angry. The boy was plotted. Not only was his sword skills taken away, but all his crystal equipment was also looted. I had no choice but to come to the hub arena to try my luck. Chen Rui looked at Lu Li suspiciously. My little friend is not weak, how could he suffer such a vicious attack? Lu Li retold the story of how he was framed by the Chen family in his last life. All details remain intact, only the names of those involved in the Chen family have been replaced. Because every sentence was true, it did not arouse Chen Li's suspicion at all. It's really abominable. He set up such a vicious trap just for his own selfish desires. Fortunately, my little friend is still alive. What a blessing among misfortunes. Chen Rui was so angry that he cursed loudly. Lu Li nodded repeatedly, pretending to be pitiful. If the old man is willing to help me, I might be able to get that sword manual back. Chen Rui subconsciously wanted to agree. After all, it was easy for him to help Lu Li kill some low-level players. However, due to rule restrictions, he was unable to visit those planets that had just recovered. After thinking for a moment, Chen Rui said, "Since my little friend has spoken, I have no reason not to agree. It's just that due to the restrictions of the rules, I am too high level and cannot personally help my little friend to settle his grudges. How about I give my little friend 4 sword slaves to help me?" In fact, according to Lu Li's original plan, he wanted to induce Chen Yan to send Chen Ke to assist him. When he returns to Earth, he will find a way to control Chen Ke, in order to blackmail Chen Zhu and obtain the 6th level of swordsmanship from the Chen family. But now it seems that Chen Yan has no such plan at all, and Lu Li can't say more. Otherwise, the intention would be too obvious and it would easily arouse the suspicion of this old fox. Seeing Lu Li nodding in agreement, Chen Yan took out 4 thumb-sized jade figurines, plus a teleportation jade token. These 4 sword slaves have reproduced my fighting skills, and they are all level 30. They should be enough to help me regain my sword skills. As for this jade token, after crushing it, it can be sent directly to the Chen family's main domain. If you encounter a crisis that cannot be resolved, you can use this to save your life. Lu Li thought to himself that this old fox had thought things through quite well and collected the things one by one. Because he still had to collect the challenge rewards from the arena, Lu Li only exchanged a few polite words with Chen Yan and then left the hall with Dio. In the gladiatorial mode, you can get 100 pivot points by winning a game, and you can double this by winning 10 consecutive games. Lu Li won 100 games in a row and finally obtained a total of 1,023,000 pivot points. With this wealth, Lu Li first bought himself a perfect quality space ring. Spend 200,000 pivot points. The space inside the ring is about 100,000 cubic meters, which is the size of 5 football fields. Time stands still internally and has few disadvantages except that it cannot store living things. In addition, Lu Li spent another 500,000 pivot points to purchase a set of equipment with the highest defensive attributes. Although with soul swallowing, Lu Li collected a lot of defense-type talents. More than enough for combat. But if you encounter an opponent with spell-breaking abilities like the three-headed hell dog, these talents will be useless. So to be on the safe side, Lu Li had to make multiple preparations. The remaining 300,000 pivot points were used by Lu Li to purchase real estate. That's right, buying a house. As the center connecting various star regions, the hub area outside the hub arena is an excellent location for purchasing real estate. Based on the experience of the previous life, as the recovery process continues to accelerate, more and more players are pouring into the hub arena. By then, housing prices in hub areas will become increasingly outrageous. So it is better to buy early than to buy by chance. In addition, Lu Li also spent 20,000 hub points to purchase a jade token that allowed him to enter the hub at will. He spent the last 3,000 pivot points on a snack called Super Lollipop. This kind of lollipop is a specialty of the hub. It is delicious and can restore a small amount of physical strength. But it's expensive. It seems like just a luxury snack. But after resurrecting his life, Lu Li understood that this thing had a hidden use that few people knew about. It can increase the favorability of NPC Wanji Travel Merchant. While Lu Li was happily shopping, Alyssa tightened her clothes. As a gladiator who also won 100 games in a row, she received the same pivot points as Lu Li. But Alyssa didn't dare to spend it. She knew very well that if it weren't for Lu Li, she would have died long ago. So in Alyssa's eyes, all of these more than 1 million pivot points should belong to Lu Li. Even her life was given by Lu Li. Anyway, you will be squeezed and die if you go back. Why not follow this man? Maybe you can live a better life. Thinking of this, Alyssa plucked up the courage to ask a question that could change her life. Lu Li, do you need a slave? Lu Li was stunned. He didn't have any strange habits, and he was betrayed and died by someone he trusted in his previous life. Although he once asked Lin Qinfang to recognize him as his master, it was actually to teach her sister Lin Qinyu a lesson. In Lu Li's eyes, he did not really treat the Lin family as slaves, but more like a mutually beneficial partner. So he had no intention of taking slaves. Seeing that Lu Li didn't answer, Alyssa felt nervous and spoke even more stutteringly. I can give you all the pivot points, and I can also sign a slave contract. I can do anything. I eat very little, and my hands and feet are very diligent. Lu Li frowned and raised his hand to interrupt. I have no intention of taking slaves. And you already have 1 million hub points. Even if you don't go back, you can still live comfortably in the hub for a while. Isn't freedom valuable? Alyssa lowered her head, and her tone suddenly became extremely humble. For me who have no strength, freedom is a curse. Lu Li raised his brows, with a hint of interest in his eyes. As my slave, aren't you afraid that I will let you die the next day? Don't be afraid, you will die anyway if you go back. Alyssa looked up with firm eyes. Let's try. What if we can survive? After that, Alyssa used her pivot points to purchase a slave contract, dripped it with blood, held it in her hands, and knelt down on her knees. Master, please accept Alyssa. Alyssa wants to live. Lu Li was startled and smiled. He reached out and took the contract. Ding. It is detected that the slave contract has been signed, and the player, Alyssa Bucky, voluntarily becomes the player, Lu Li, as the master. The contract will take effect from then on until death. Seeing that the contract took effect, Alyssa finally breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Li was not polite and bought Alyssa a set of high defense equipment and a jade token for entering and exiting the hub. The remaining 500,000 points were spent by Lu Li on a shield. Item name: Shield of the Coward. Quality: Epic. Function description: unable to attack while holding a shield. Speed attribute reduced by 80%. Physical attributes increased by 100%. All types of damage reduced by 65%. Resistance to various negative effects increases by 5%. When attacked, there is a 50% chance of triggering a perfect block. After a perfect block, the holder will remain invisible for 1 minute. Note: isn't this bullying an honest person? Equipment quality is divided into 7 types: inferior, ordinary, sophisticated, excellent, perfect, epic, and mythical. Epic equipment is second only to mythical equipment, and it stands to reason that the price is more than 500,000 pivot points. However, Shield of the Coward has 2 characteristics: cannot attack while held, and speed attribute reduced by 80%. Let it become a defense in epic equipment. But in Luli's eyes, this thing suited Alyssa very well. Anyway, we don't expect this cat-eared girl to do any damage, so why not let her hold a shield and be a cheering mascot on the side? As long as you can save your life. After spending the money, Luli was ready to take Alyssa out of the hub arena. At this moment, an extremely tall figure blocked the way of the two of them. The Supreme Sky blinked its 6 eyes, and there was no emotion on his face, as cold as bluestone. Luli took half a step forward and said, neither humble nor arrogant. Your Excellency stopped me, is there something wrong? The Supreme Sky pondered for a moment and then said, your game was exciting, but when I was watching in the audience, there was something that I couldn't understand. How did you kill that 3-headed hell dog in the end? Luli naturally knew the true identity of Supreme Heaven, but he did not expose the other party's disguise and just said calmly, who am I to tell you? Ji Gaotian had a ferocious look on his face and said coldly, if you didn't say anything, I would kill you. In the hub arena, no action is allowed except during competition time. This is a rule restriction. Even the Supreme Heaven, who is the manager, cannot violate it. The reason why he said he wanted to kill Luli was just to bluff the newcomer and see if he could easily find out the other person's secret. Luli seemed to be frightened by the aura of the Supreme Heaven, and looked scared. I said, don't kill me. HMPH. The Supreme Sky looked proud. Say it quickly. Luli reached up to the sky and raised his fingers, beckoning the other party to listen. Then, he whispered, that dog is too weak. Even your grandma can handle it easily, let alone your grandpa and me. Hearing these words, the 6 eyes of the Supreme Heaven almost stood up with anger. I wanted to bluff Luli, but he didn't succeed and was ridiculed. Supreme Innocence really wanted to slap Luli to death. But due to the rules and regulations in the arena, he finally had no choice but to knock out his teeth and swallow it in his stomach, instead adopting a friendly attitude. My friend was joking, and I won't let you reveal it in vain. Well, I'm willing to use 26th order elemental crystals in exchange, and also ask my friends to satisfy my curiosity. 26th order yuan crystals. Luli pretended to hesitate. I'm afraid this price is not enough. 30. Supreme Heaven gritted his teeth. That's my most important secret, the winning card. I need to add money. 35. Make a deal. Luli took away the yuan jing and said with a smile. The reason why I was able to kill that 3-headed hell dog with 1 punch was all due to luck. Luck. Supreme Heaven was a little dumbfounded. The secret that I spent 35 6th level yuan crystals to obtain is ultimately just the word, luck. Ji Gaotian's first reaction was that Luli was playing tricks on him. However, just when he was about to run away, the servo skull that had been hovering beside him quietly said, the target has not been detected to be lying, and the authenticity of the information is as high as 100%. WTF. The 6 eyes of the Supreme Sky widened. The lie detection device of the servo skull is made by the titanium silicon family, and its quality is among the best in the entire realm. So if this skull with mechanical structures embedded on its surface said that Luli wasn't lying, then Luli definitely wasn't lying. But how is this possible? A level 15 player killed a level 25 3-headed hell dog just by luck. Are you kidding me? Just when Supreme Sky wanted to ask more carefully, he found Luli staring at the data panel with a solemn expression. There was a vague pressure in the air. The Supreme Sky shuddered. What happened? He was actually frightened by a level 15 newcomer. However, before Supreme Heaven could speak, Lu Li activated the teleportation jade token and left the hub arena with Alyssa. Yangcheng No. 1 Middle School. Inside the boys' dormitory building. Brother Dao, who had a bruised nose and face, had his arms tied behind his back and his whole body was hung upside down from the ceiling. There were not many good teeth left in his mouth, and he was begging for mercy vaguely. Brother Jin, everything I said is true. I really informed you as soon as possible. I didn't go through with Lu Li. Furthermore, that boy can summon a sword-armed mantis. Didn't I tell you this a long time ago? Please believe me, I really didn't lie to you. Zhao Jin sat on the chair and played with the vice in his hand casually. As he exerted force with his palms, the tooth that was clamped on the pliers and had just been extracted made a creaking sound. What do you mean? Did I blame you wrongly? Brother Dao's whole body tensed up and his head shook like a rattle. No. I didn't mean that. Zhao Jin's palm suddenly exerted force, and his teeth exploded on the spot. Who was it that beat his chest and vowed that he would be able to control Lu Li? You said that even if he is the Monkey King causing trouble in the Heavenly Palace, your people can keep him firmly under the Five Fingers Mountain. Brother Dao cried and felt extremely aggrieved. If that kid Huang Bin can be more reliable, Lu Li will definitely not be able to rive. I originally wanted to use his Libra talent to temporarily lock Lu Li's attributes and restrain him. But unexpectedly, this kid's right hand was chopped off by Lu Li as soon as he came up. He didn't even have time to activate his talent. When I rushed over, Huang Bin was already dead. Zhao Jin stood up and slowly cleaned the tooth fragments in the vice, without any warmth in his tone. So, you might as well use the trick and collude with Lu Li to deal with me in turn, right? After saying that, Zhao Jin squatted down and slowly moved the vice towards Brother Dao's face. No. Brother Dao kept struggling, like a pig about to be slaughtered. Just when the vice was about to clamp the teeth in his mouth, Brother Dao had an idea flash in his mind and shouted urgently. Wait, I know how to find Lu Li. Oh, Zhao Jin stopped moving, tilted his head and urged, speak quickly. Xu Xiao, Lu Li has a good relationship with that girl named Xu Xiao. As long as we can find Xu Xiao, we can definitely find out Lu Li's whereabouts. Zhao Jin's eyes narrowed and he continued to ask. Where is Xu Xiao? I don't know. It was supposed to be in the girls' dormitory opposite. Before Brother Dao could finish his words, another tooth left his mouth forever. Throwing the teeth and the vice to the ground, Zhao Jin straightened up. Kill it. Brother Dao twisted his body crazily and shouted hysterically. Wait, among my people are students from No. 1 Middle School and teachers from No. 1 Middle School. Ask them, they must know Xu Xiao's whereabouts. Zhao Jin raised his eyebrows and seemed to agree with Brother Dao's proposal. You're right, so you're useless. You can go on your way with peace of mind. The sword flashed, and the head and the voice fell to the ground. Bring those pigs here. Zhao Jin looked gloomy and returned to his seat. After a while, the teachers and students, headed by the square-faced Yang, were brought into the room. Does any of you know the whereabouts of Xu Xiao? If you tell me, you won't die. No one said a word. Zhao Jin sighed and said softly. Kill two. 2 students died on the spot. Teacher Yang, who had a square face, couldn't bear it and said. We really don't know where Xu Xiao is, and we're not deliberately hiding it. Zhao Jin turned a deaf ear and didn't even look at Teacher Yang. Is anyone willing to talk now? Still no one said a word. Kill 4 more. 4 more lives disappeared. The crowd became restless, and some girls even peed their pants. He Shufin squeezed out of the crowd with a flattering face. Brother, I may know where Xu Xiao is. Xu Xiao will go to the shopping mall to collect supplies 2 days ago. There must be a temporary base for her there. As long as Big Brother sends people to guard the entrance of the supermarket, we will definitely catch that little fool in less than 3 days. An impatient look appeared in Zhao Jin's eyes. 3 days. It's too long. Does anyone know the exact location? I know. Wang Suyan raised her hands and jumped out of the crowd. Xu Xiao just contacted me, asking me how the situation is here. Hearing this, Zhao Jin suddenly stood up from his chair and came to Wang Suyan in 3 steps and 2 steps at a time. Do you have Xu Xiao's best friend? Wang Suyan nodded repeatedly, her eyes full of flattery. I just lied to her, saying that I had escaped, and begged her to take me in. Guess what? This stupid just shared the coordinates with me. Shopping and supermarket nearby, in a certain residential building. Ma-han, who looked bored, lay on the sofa and stuffed another piece of bubble gum into his mouth. This was the 8th piece of bubble gum he had eaten in a row. The bubble gum in his mouth had formed into large clumps, making it difficult to chew. But Ma-han still chewed repeatedly and hard, as if this action could vent his depression. Wang Chao took the trash can and handed it to Ma-han. If you keep chewing it, the bubble gum will turn into a condom, so spit it out quickly. Get out, Ma-han cursed angrily, and accidentally sprayed out the sugar gum in his mouth. He sighed dejectedly and popped a new piece into his mouth. Oh, don't be angry, the monitor has that kind of character. Wang Chao threw the sugar gum on the ground into the trash can and advised. Anyway, we have enough food here, so it doesn't matter if we have one more Wang Suyan. Upon hearing this, Ma-han immediately sat up from the sofa. You fat guy knows nothing. Am I worried about food? What I'm worried about is that Wang Suyan will sell us. Wang Chao scratched his head and looked puzzled. But Wang Suyan said that she had already escaped. Ma-han rolled his eyes and fell back on the sofa. You just believe what others say. Can't you be a little wary? Wang Chaohan smiled and said. Hey, we are all classmates, why should we be wary? However, before he finished speaking, gunfire came from downstairs. Wang Chao and Ma-han looked at each other and ran downstairs. When the two of them arrived at the entrance of the corridor, many people had gathered outside. A few were aborigines in the building, and the others were students who escaped from the dormitory with Xu Xiao. At some point, the gate was filled with heavily armed men in black, surrounding the entire community. A figure fell at the gate, seemingly seriously injured. Monitor. Wang Chao recognized the fallen man and ran toward the door while shouting. After Ma-han got over the initial surprise, he immediately followed. When the two of them got close, they discovered that there was a familiar face hidden among the men in black not far away. Wang Suyan. Wang Chao and Ma-han exclaimed at the same time. Ma-han reacted faster and immediately understood what was going on. Wang Suyan, you really sold us. Are you still a human being? After Wang Suyan heard the voice, she subconsciously shrank her head. But soon, she realized that she had changed her backing, so she stopped hiding and walked out arrogantly. You monkey, don't speak so harshly. Brother Jin is just here to ask something. Who knew Xu Xiao, a fool, wouldn't cooperate? Who can be blamed? I can only blame her for bringing it upon herself. Xu Xiao was helped up by Wang Chao, his face as pale as paper. She was shot in the abdomen, and her dress was soaked and stained red with blood. They are here to find Lu Li. Xu Xiao explained the situation to Wang Chao with difficulty. The latter looked anxious. Then tell them that Lu Li is not here with us and let them look elsewhere. Zhao Jin pushed Wang Suyan out of the way and stepped forward slowly. Of course I know Lu Li is not here, but Xu Xiao has Lu Li's best friend. So, I need her to help me find Lu Li. You said I'd help you find it, so I'll help you find it. A student in the crowd shouted. He came up and injured our squad leader without saying a word, and then asked us for help. How can there be any truth in the world? Zhao Jin tilted his head slightly and looked at the crowd. While his eyes were locked on the student, a bullet whizzed out and hit the other student between the eyebrows. Died, just because he stood up and said something. The crowd exploded instantly, making a fuss and trying to run away. But Zhao Jin's people will not allow this to happen. A dozen masked men in costumes had already surrounded the crowd. If anyone tried to escape, they would knock them to the ground. Zhao Jin took out a gold pocket watch and said calmly. My needs are very simple. I just need you to help me find Lu Li. My patience is very limited. As long as Lu Li doesn't show up, I will kill someone every 30 seconds. When Ma-han heard this, he pulled out his arms and took out the flaming long bow. Do you really think that we are just fools? Wang Chao also stood up from the ground, his skin hardened like armor. Don't kill innocent people indiscriminately. Looking at the two people standing in front of him, Zhao Jin chuckled and didn't take them seriously at all. Time passed quickly in silence. The 30 seconds came quickly, gunfire rang out, and a life was taken away at random. Ma-han's anger surged, and he didn't care about the consequences. He loosened his fingertips, and the flaming arrow immediately shot out, heading straight for Zhao Jin's face. Seeing that he was about to hit, Zhao Jin did not dodge, but instead laughed even harder. Bang! The flaming arrow exploded in front of Zhao Jin, instantly sending up a large fireball. Succeeded. Not only Ma Han, but all the trapped survivors were happy. It seemed that the one named Zhao Jin was just bluffing. However, the next second, their hearts sank to the bottom. The flaming arrows did cause damage to Zhao Jin, almost completely frying his face. There are even bones exposed in some places. But these wounds are healing rapidly. Within 3 seconds, Zhao Jin's gloomy smiling face appeared again, and the look in his eyes was as cold as frost, so cold that people dared not look directly at him. Time's up, kill another one. Gunshots rang out and another person fell to the ground. Zhao Jin didn't even pay attention to Ma Han's attack, as if in his eyes, it was just an insect bite. I told you to stop. Wang Chao roared and rushed towards Zhao Jin. The latter still did not dodge, but quickly raised his leg and kicked Wang Chao in the throat. Don't overestimate your capabilities. Ignoring Wang Chao, who was coughing violently on the ground, Zhao Jin raised his eyes and looked at the crowd. Who else wants to try their luck? No one responded. A low whimper began to fill the silent air. Zhao Jin walked to Xu Xiao, reached out and pulled the girl's hair, and lifted her up from the ground. Call Lu Li quickly, otherwise, I will keep killing people until they are all killed. Cries gradually broke out in the crowd. Squad leader, why don't you just listen to him? Yes, call Lu Li quickly, otherwise he will really kill us all. It's obviously Lu Li who provoked his enemies, why do we have to pay the price? Hurry up and contact Lu Li. Is his life more important than all of us put together? Lu Li, you, come out quickly, I don't want to die. Looking at the vulnerable people, Zhao Jin smiled even more happily. Crying, it counts as time. Gunfire rang out indiscriminately, taking away one life after another. At this moment, an announcement came from everyone's data panel at the same time. Congratulations to player Lu Li for becoming the first player in the world to kill a Lord creature. He will be rewarded with a first kill treasure chest X1. Land from. Zhao Jin seemed to be greatly stimulated by this announcement, and raised his hand to slap Xu Xiao hard in the face. Perhaps because he felt that this was not enough to satisfy his hatred, he dragged the girl towards the gate of the community. It seems that just killing people will not have any motivating effect on you. In order to ensure that Lu Li can show up as soon as possible, I have to arrange some special services for you. Throwing Xu Xiao onto the concrete floor, Zhao Jin shouted to his men. Come on, 2 people, hold this girl down. Everyone else, line up and pamper her one by one. I want to see how long you can hold on. Xu Xiao almost collapsed. The violent emotional impact left her temporarily speechless and her body was held down. She could only shed tears and shake her head in vain. Zhao Jin's men moved quickly, and after a while, a middle-aged man with a wretched face came over. He tore the girl's clothes wantonly. Every time a little bit was pulled off, bursts of laughter could be heard. Seeing that Xu Xiao's clothes were about to be stripped off, Ma Han took action again. He quickly pulled the flaming long bow and fired 3 arrows in succession. 2 of the shots hit Zhao Jin, while the other shot hit a wretched man who wanted to do something wrong. Seeing that the attack was successful, Ma Han rushed forward, trying to snatch Xu Xiao back from the opponent's hand. But before he could take a step, a black shadow suddenly shot out and bit Ma Han's calf. Ah! Ma Han screamed and fell to the ground. 2 more black shadows followed, one on the left and one on the right, biting his hands. When everyone saw the black shadow's face clearly, there was a sound of bones breaking in Ma Han's arms. Those were 3 strange dogs with bloody eyes and black fur. Each of the strange dogs has a faint black aura lingering on them. They are not big in size, but they give people a ferocious and unusual feeling. Zhao Jinsong, that skinny guy keeps beating you, I feel uncomfortable. A short-haired woman with smoky makeup on her face and a seductive voice slowly walked out, raised her foot and stepped on Ma Han's head. Do you want my children to eat him, bite by bite? The woman spoke with a strange accent and did not sound Chinese. Zhao Jin wiped the blood stains on his face and said without caring. Chigo-chan, these attacks don't pose any threat to me. But if you want to play, that's up to you. Okay. The short-haired female dog nodded, controlled the strange dog, and prepared to tear Ma Han apart. But before she could issue the command, the three strange dogs suddenly turned their heads and looked somewhere. It seems like something is attracting them in the darkness. Land from Wang Chao, who finally regained his composure, also felt something and shouted excitedly. But the next second, the expression on his face froze. A figure did step out of the darkness. But it's not Lu Li, but a tall woman. Her body was shiny, and she was wearing a set of gorgeous light armor. Although he has a kind face, Wang Chao always has a strange impulse. I obviously don't know her, but why do I want to attack her? Before Wang Chao could figure out the reason, the tall woman in the distance suddenly shouted. Zhao Jin, the Lin family is here to collect debts from you. Lin, debt collection. They are here to cause trouble for Zhao Jin. Wang Chao was overjoyed. Although I can't figure out the direction of the arrival, as the saying goes. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The tall woman in the distance looks like she has good fighting ability. With her around, Zhao Jin will definitely restrain himself a lot. The young dog squinted at Lin Qinfeng in the distance, smiled at Zhao Jinzhao and said. Debt collection, Zhao Jinsong, what you owe is probably a romantic debt, right? Zhao Jin's face darkened and he frowned. It's just a stepping stone for the Zhao family. I don't know why Zhu is not dead. He has been flying around like flies in the past 2 days. Buzz buzz. Ji Quan laughed twice, looking a little crazy. She is a fly, then aren't you just, hee hee. Zhao Jin's face turned darker, with murderous intent hidden in his eyes. Xiao Songjiquan's special status made it difficult for him to fall out, so he could only vent his anger on Lin Qinfeng. Looking at the woman in the distance, Zhao Jin smiled ferociously. The eldest lady of the Lin family came to collect debts. Why didn't she bring 2 more people with her? Where are your 3 sisters? Why haven't they shown up? Could it be that he died in the secret realm of massacre? As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Jin moved. He rushed towards Lin Qinfeng at an extremely fast speed and fired a cannon punch from the front. The woman did not dodge, but also punched him. After several consecutive moves like this, the 2 of them retreated together. Lin Qinfeng shook his aching hands and gritted his silver teeth. Zhao Jin, on the other hand, looked relaxed as he watched the bleeding wounds recover quickly. He did not continue to attack, but made a gesture behind him. Several figures rushed out and quickly surrounded Lin Qinfeng. Miss Lin family, do you really think you can defeat 1,000,000 troops by yourself? Without the cooperation of your sisters, you are nothing. Zhao Jin's ridicule was unbridled. Lin Qinfeng nodded without denying. You are right, so they are here too. As soon as he finished speaking, a sword light slashed out from the darkness. The unprepared Zhao Jin fled in panic. Although the vital point was avoided, a huge gash was still cut on the shoulder. At the same time, the brilliance of group healing and holy blessing fell simultaneously, shrouding Lin Qinfeng. The eldest sister of the Lin family, who has returned to full health, is fighting against many. Lin Qinzu pursed her thin lips tightly, and she had been pressing Zhao Jin since she appeared. A frost sword dances continuously, leaving deep or shallow wounds on the target with each attack. For a time, Zhao Jin was retreating steadily and seemed to be losing ground. Seeing this, the besieged crowd once again felt the flame of hope in their hearts. It seemed that Zhao Jin was no match for these 4 women. Everyone, don't stand around stupidly. Take advantage of this good opportunity to resist together. Wang Chao roared at the crowd. If everyone unites as one at this moment, coupled with the fighting power of the 4 Lin family women, maybe they can really reverse the situation. However, but no one responded to Wang Chao. The survivors just remained silent, their eyes evasive. Not to mention resisting, they didn't even dare to look into Wang Chao's eyes. Xiao Songjiquan burst out laughing, seemingly amused by Wang Chao's shouting. You Chinese people are cowardly to your core. It was like this more than 80 years ago, and more than 80 years later, it still hasn't changed at all. Cowards, they are all cowards. Such a nation deserves to be exterminated. Ha 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 ha. Wang Chao's eyes were red. He was trembling all over, like a crazy trapped animal. What are you doing? Resist. Now is the best opportunity to resist. The crowd was in commotion, but still no one stood up. After a long time, a thin girl squeezed out. It's Cheng Duoduo. Her face was full of fear, but she still used all her strength to shout to the crowd. Everyone, unite, don't let others slaughter you. The little pine dog frowned and clicked his tongue impatiently. One of the strange dogs suddenly jumped out, opened its mouth, and bit Chang Duoduo. The girl screamed and subconsciously held her head to avoid it. But for her, the speed of the strange dog was too fast. Before he could take even half a step, he was thrown to the ground. Chang Duoduo struggled and crawled towards the crowd, constantly asking for help. But no one was willing to help. In their eyes, the thin girl who was knocked down by the strange dog was already dead. Wang Chao roared angrily and staggered towards Cheng Duoduo, trying to save him. But soon, two other strange dogs blocked his way. He didn't attack, he just blocked Wang Chao from going to the rescue. It was as if he was deliberately trying to make him look at the girl and be bitten to death bit by bit. Wang Chao realized that to capture the thief, he needed to capture the king first, so he hurriedly turned around and bumped into Xiaosong Jigu. The woman smiled strangely and did not summon a strange dog to stop her. She just took out a pistol. Wang Chao felt a chill in his heart, and immediately comforted himself. I am now at level 3, and my talent armor cover should be able to block pistol bullets. With this belief in mind, Wang Chao's speed became faster. The short-haired woman's talent is the summoning system, and she shouldn't have any melee abilities. As long as she is killed, Cheng Duoduo can be saved. The distance between Wang Chao and Xiaosong Jiquan quickly shortened. It's about to succeed. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Wang Chao watched as blood exploded on his body, as fragile as tissue paper. What happened? Talent expired. Bang, bang, 2 more shots. Wang Chao felt severe pain in his legs, as if they were broken. He knelt down weakly, his ears filled with crazy laughter. Ha ha ha, you made me laugh so hard. You fat man, you are so stupid. Are you confused as to why your talent suddenly failed? Xiao Songjiquan stretched out his hand to touch his neck and drew out a blood-red pendant. Did you see it? An excellent quality item, magic crystal pendant. With it, all talents within 3 meters of me will be invalid. Even if your defense is impregnable, it's still a matter of 1 shot in front of me. What? Wang Chao stared blankly at the pendant on the woman's fingertips, feeling powerless quickly spreading in his heart. The woman from Sakura country in front of her actually possesses an item that can invalidate her talent. How to fight this? Before Wang Chao could recover from the shock, something unexpected happened not far away. Zhao Jin seemed to have used some means, and his combat power suddenly increased. Even after a series of chases and fierce attacks, the sword-wielding woman was beaten back alive. Not to mention the 4 of you, even if you add that old guy Lin Tianxia, you are no match for me. Zhao Jin laughed wildly and punched like the wind. After pushing back Lin Qinfeng, who was struggling to hold on, he opened his mouth and stimulated. Oh yes, I almost forgot, Lin Tianxia has been poisoned and died, ha ha ha. The 4 daughters of the Lin family were stunned when they heard this, with shock in their eyes. The cause of death of Lin Tianxia, the head of the Lin family, is still a mystery. Why did Zhao Jin say he died of poisoning? Did you kill the old man? Lin Qinyu's eyes widened, and her voice trembled with extreme anger. Asshole, I'll kill you. Qinyu. Lin Qinfeng grabbed his sister and lowered his voice anxiously. Don't be impulsive, we are no match for him. Wait until Sir comes, he will be there soon. Sister. Lin Qinyu's voice was hoarse. Didn't you hear? It's Zhao Jin. He killed the old man. Revenge, sister. Let me go, I want revenge. Lin Qinfeng was already injured, and Lin Qinyu struggled so hard that he lost his hand for a while. Lin Qinyu, who had no fighting ability, could not be Zhao Jin's opponent. It's just like a meat bun beating a dog. Lin Qinyu couldn't even touch anyone before she was knocked down by Zhao Jin's men and tightly controlled. Such a scene happened to fall in Wang Chao's eyes. The last hope was completely shattered. Xiao Songjiquan raised his leg and stepped on Wang Chao's shoulder with a mocking look on his face. Stupid fat man, for the sake of your courage, my sister will give you a way to survive. Kowtow to me twice, and then shout 3 times, Chinese people will always be Sakura's dogs, and I will spare your life. Otherwise, you will die next. After saying that, Xiaosong Jiquan looked at Cheng Duoduo not far away. The girl's body was covered with bite wounds, and she was in pain until she fainted. But the three strange dogs still didn't stop chewing, and the look of them gorging on flesh and blood was horrifying. Wang Chao trembled and slowly fell forward. The smile on Xiao Songjiquan's face grew stronger, ready to enjoy the coming begging for mercy. His head was about to hit the ground. Wang Chao suddenly had a fierce look on his face and lunged forward with a roar. Your grandma. The little pine dog was defenseless and was actually thrown to the ground. Seeing the success, Wang Chao hurriedly reached out to grab the magic crystal pendant. But the injuries on his body were too serious, and the snatching movement was finally half a beat too slow. Xiao Songjiquan hit him with a knee and broke free from the restraints. You are ignorant of current affairs. Since you are anxious to die, then I will help you. The woman drew her gun and pulled the trigger. The firepower poured out and the magazine was emptied directly. However, Wang Chao did not die. Not only was he not dead, not even a bullet fell on him. All attacks were blocked by a giant shield half as tall as a man. Two furry cat ears poked out from behind the shield. After shaking nervously, they quickly drooped down again. It seems like it's blocking something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Master asked me to do this. Master, where is Master? Alyssa looked timidly at the young pine dog opposite, like a frightened rabbit. Xiao Songjiquan was stunned, obviously not realizing what happened. However, the killing intent that followed caused her body to react subconsciously. The young pine dog leaned to one side and barely managed to avoid the sharp blade coming from an angle. A man in thin armor appeared out of thin air, his eyes full of coldness. Wang Chao saw the person coming clearly, and the tears he had been holding back finally burst into his eyes. Land from. What did you do? You made yourself so embarrassed. Lu Li glanced at Wang Chao behind the shield and raised his hand to activate extreme healing. The latter's injuries healed quickly, and within a few breaths, he had regained his ability to move. Seeing Wang Chao getting up from the ground, Xiao Songjiquan looked even more shocked. This mysterious man who suddenly appeared seemed to have used his healing talent. But how is this possible? He is clearly still within the range of the magic crystal pendant. The talent should be disabled. Who are you? You don't look like a local. Lu Li frowned and looked at Xiao Songjiquan. HMPH, of course I'm not Chinese, I come from the noble Sakura. Lu Li raised his eyebrows. It turns out he's a Sakura who had a good life as a child, so that's no problem. The young pine dog sneered. What, are you scared? Lu Li shook his head, black mist billowing around him. No, I was worried that I would kill the wrong person. In an instant, there seemed to be a ghostly cry. The black mist condensed and turned into soul soldiers with different shapes. The huge number filled the empty community to the brim. Most of Zhao Jin's men were mercilessly killed by the soul soldiers before they had time to react. The situation was reversed in an instant. Xiao Songjiquan could only stare blankly at everything in front of him, watching his own power collapse. The mysterious man opposite is also a summoning type. But why can he summon instantly? And the number of summons? How come there are so many? Magic crystal pendant. Corrupted hound. That's it. Lu Li walked slowly approaching the little pine dog. I've never been able to figure out why the earth was affected when the first wave of demonic tide broke out, even though its location is so far away. Now I understand. It turns out it's you Sakura people who are causing trouble. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Li's figure suddenly accelerated. The blade cuts through the air, the killing intent is fierce. The young pine dog wants to hide. But the next second, she was horrified to find that Lu Li had disappeared. She couldn't catch the attack trajectory at all. Before the second syllable could roll out of his throat, a thin spurt of blood choked it back. Xiao Songjiquan felt a big hole in his neck, and his head tilted back uncontrollably. Tisk, I thought it was so powerful. Lu Li flicked the blade and subconsciously activated soul swallowing. But this time, no familiar prompt sounded. Well, not completely dead. Lu Li frowned slightly and stepped forward to check. Unexpectedly, the body of the little pine dog suddenly twitched and got up in an unusually weird reverse joint posture. Only half of the head, which was connected to flesh and skin, was swinging back and forth, and indistinct sounds kept coming from the throat. Lu Li. You forced me to use that prop. You must die here today. A large amount of scarlet blood spurted out from the neck wound, completely wrapping the body of the young pine dog. 3 strange dogs jumped into the bloodline one after another and disappeared. Like a wriggling cocoon, the sounds of broken bones and torn muscles continued to come from it, exuding a heart-stopping sense of oppression. Magic cocoon. Lu Li's eyes narrowed and he immediately shouted to Wang Chao. Get out of here. But it's too late. The swollen and squirming magic cocoon suddenly shrank, and then expanded rapidly. Just one breath and exploded into pieces. The violent demonic energy swept through the entire community, causing everyone present to suffer varying degrees of pollution. Even Lu Li, who was on guard, suffered from the negative effects of demon erosion. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.